All right, folks, let's do this. We're live. We might only have 15 minutes to go until we get to lock for the London game, Jags Bears, but now we're here, and I think we're slowly but surely getting our technical issues fixed. I've got our single lineup sim pulled up now. We're going to build some lineups. I've got my lineups in already. Chat was definitely active in their thoughts of what this game is going to be. I tried to let you guys know by writing it down on a piece of paper. That didn't go as well as I would have liked it to go. But I can tell you guys what I'm getting to right now. I've got my lineups in already for the London game. By the way, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me and everybody else that signs up on here on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. But we're here now. We're going to try to build out at least a lineup or two. I'm going to let you guys know the guys that I am heaviest on. You guys could let me know if you hate me in chat for those stances. But Caleb Williams is the highest owned guy on today's slate, just north of 70%. I'm a little bit higher on Caleb Williams. Trevor Lawrence is my second most exposed guy, so I'm getting to both quarterbacks in a big way. They are the two highest owned guys on the slate. If we're talking about guys that are a little bit less owned than the two quarterbacks, DeAndre Swift is a big stand for me. DJ Moore is a little bit more of a fade. And then Jags D getting there. A little bit over the field, maybe like 50% more than the field. Evan Ingram is also the other guy that I'm about 50% over the field on. Some of the guys that I'm not getting to as much, Brian Thomas, Keenan Allen, as I mentioned, DJ Moore, Rome, Cole Kmet. It's kind of gross. It's kind of gross. We got a member message. I'll put that on the screen just so everybody can see it. Member message from Melissa said, "Sorry I called you a dick on the other chat, Josh." Not a problem at all. If anybody's ever going to get called a dick on one of these streams, it's certainly going to be me. And whether or not I was deserving of it in this particular instance, I wasn't. I've definitely been deserving of it in the past. So I think it's going to be okay that you did it, Melissa. Not a problem. Happy to have you. All right. The ROI czar is here. The single lineup sim czar is here. Let's go ahead and build out a lineup, and let's find out if we can find something good. And right out of the gate, we're going to build one that's a little weird. I'm going to start with Caleb Williams in the captain spot. And the first thing that I put in after Caleb Williams is going to be the Jags defense. Feels like a day where Caleb Williams can be okay and the Jags could take a pick to the house. So I'm going to be okay with that. If I'm taking Caleb Williams, I am also going to go to DJ Moore since I'm going to have the salary to do so. I'm going to get Keenan Allen as well. So now we're going to need that Jags touchdown and hopefully a couple sacks. We can get Rome. So it's Bears onslaught of pass catchers with Trevor Lawrence and the Jags D. This doesn't seem like a lineup you would want to build naturally. But I think having the Jags D in here might make this look a little bit better. First try, single lineup czar. And right out of the gate, we go big. We go very, very big. 73% simulated ROI, a 1% chance to pick up a dub. I know no one wants this lineup. And if y'all dupe me, I'm going to be mad. But right out of the gate, we built a decent lineup here. And we spent every cent, which is honestly a little scary. I wonder what happens if we trade out the Jags. Yeah, we can't even do that. There's nothing else even remotely close if you try to swap out Jags D. I am a little intrigued by swapping out something like Rome. If we turn Rome into Evan Ingram and leave salary on the table, I wonder if that improves this lineup in any way. because it does improve the projection. Okay. It's not for a large field contest, but in a small field, swapping out Rome for Evan Ingram greatly improved it. Let's see how it looks in a large field contest with 25% to first. So let's take Evan Ingram back out of there. We'll put the Jags back in, or sorry, we'll put Rome back in. See how it looked the first time. So Eric, this is what it's going to look like for a large field in comparison to the small field. So you do see that does change the game up a little bit here by moving that from small field to large field. We do take a pretty sizable bite out of that sim ROI. Now, if we swap out Rome for Evan Ingram, do we get up into that 100% range? Or because I feel like this is a much better lineup for a large field contest. I usually like to go, I don't usually love a 3-3 as much, but for this particular slate, okay, so 58, very big difference between large field and small field. So now I want chat to help me out a little bit here. I need you guys to give me a captain. So let it rip in chat right now. Who do we want to build out in the captain spot? Let's go with somebody that isn't Caleb Williams. We've got about 9 minutes to go until we lock for this 9:30 slate. But we are not going anywhere when it comes to doing a show today. Greg for a half hour, an hour and a half of the deeper dive, an hour and a half of live before lock, or something in that range. All the way until 1. Okay, so we're getting the list now. Swift, Tank, Jags or Swift, Ingram, Keenan Allen, Kicker, Moore. Feels like Swift is the move here. Swift seems to be the guy that is most popular. So let's go ahead and grab a DeAndre Swift lineup. And I talk about this a lot when we do these shows. My wife does have DeAndre Swift on her fantasy team. She's been quite successful so far this year. So I do have a bit of a stand on Swift. I am cheering for DeAndre Swift. If we're going to go Swift, I want Bears D. I don't mind going Caleb Williams still. I think we could go 3-3 here. I think we can go Trevor Lawrence. I think we can go Evan Ingram. And I think we can grab ETN. I don't hate this. We leave 1,600 on the table. Not going to be the most popular lineup construction in the world. Bears D being in this with the 3-man Jag stack. Not going to be super popular. All right. 19%. It's not my favorite lineup that we've ever built. That's for sure. I do kind of want to move one of those Jags guys into a Bears guy. What are you guys seeing here? What would you want to trade out in this lineup? Can we make Evan Ingram be something more interesting? Now, Ingram really is the better projection in that spot. This could be a situation where we actually do drop it down to Rome and spend more to be a little bit more different in the construction. Kind of need like a passing touchdown to ETN in this spot here. Screen pass. Yeah, 21%. I'm not surprised. Let's do one more. Let's try to be a little weird. Although I don't really have a lot of dialed in weird captains. I've got 2 Christian Kirks. And I don't feel like that's going to be a super popular captain option. Chad Wiseman says Bears D. I don't have any Bears D captain spot stuff. Envious says Brian Thomas at captain is the nuts. I do not have that at all. And I am very light on Thomas. I do have a lineup with Thomas and with Kirk in at the captain spot. Then we get Swift. Then we get Evan Ingram. All right, this one's a little bit more off the beaten path. Gabe Davis, and Trevor Lawrence. Spends every cent 5-1 with DeAndre Swift. No defenses. I'm intrigued by this. You guys like the Kirk captain? That lineup sucks. That is a next level terrible lineup construction. I'm going to let you guys know a little secret. Don't play what's on the screen right now. Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas, DeAndre Swift, Evan Ingram, Gabe Davis, Trevor Lawrence. I don't think that I could build a lineup worse than this on purpose. That is next level terrible. Next level terrible. What if we turn Swift into Caleb Williams? Can we salvage that lineup at all? I don't think we can. DFS. I agree. Thomas ain't it. I think that's why I'm light on him. Yeah, -44. I don't think the Christian Kirk construction is what we're looking for on this one. Back to the drawing board. If you guys have a Christian Kirk lineup in at the captain, let me know, because it doesn't feel like it's all that good. Jeremy, I actually don't have any Rome captain lineups. I basically have 3 main captains: DeAndre Swift, Trevor Lawrence, and Caleb Williams. And then big stands. To me, it's the quarterbacks today that I'm taking the biggest. And everybody is taking that same sort of stand. I mean, Caleb Williams and Trevor Lawrence are the 2 most owned guys, but I'm even above the field on both of them. That seems to be the direction that I am going most of all. Apologies for the delayed start, guys. I would have liked to talk about this one a little bit more. Sometimes it's just not always in the cards. We're going to have basketball coming up in, 9 days or something like that? You're going to get some love out of the NBA streets from me. A lot. You're going to get a little bit of love out of Greg Ehrenberg coming up next, and then 3 more hours after Greg. Guys, thank you so much for being here. It's been fun to do this. I'm going to go win 100K on the London game. Don't chop it with me with the lineup that we did first, the real good one. Be nice about it. Put that in a different contest. But otherwise, good luck, everybody. Big prize pools out there today. Win some money. Do it with the Stokastic tools. You can find them, I hope, by clicking the link in the description of this video. Good luck, everybody.
Oh, am I on now, Jordan? All right. That was a quick transition. Not what I was expecting, but hey, good morning, guys. This is going to be the portion of the show we talk about the main slate here. And then, of course, after me, we're going to have Ben Raza and Lofty. They're going to be breaking down the slate by game, going through all the games, all the matchups, all the injuries, and then live before lock, Matt Kajeski, Eric Lindquist. They're going to be breaking down anything that happens in terms of projection updates, ownership updates, late breaking news, their player exposures. But first, let's build some lineups here. So what we are going to do here is, if you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Helps us out a whole bunch. We appreciate it. And we are going to build some lineups here for the main slate. We're going to look at all the player projections and the ownership projections as well. So, Jordan, if you wouldn't mind pulling our projections up here on screen in the single lineup sim. Let's start by looking at the quarterbacks here. And we'll see who's projecting the best here. Just give you guys, you're probably familiar with it if you've been watching the show for the first month of the season. I want to give you guys an idea for who is projected the best in our data, and then also what the chalk is for the slate. So starting at QB, we actually have a handful of QBs that are projecting pretty well for this slate. And I think more so than we've seen on other slates so far this year, where we have, 4 quarterbacks project for north of 20 fantasy points. Leading the way is Lamar Jackson at 24.18. And not an official thing here, but I think this is the highest projection we've had on any single quarterback for the entire season. Just over 24 fantasy points for Lamar Jackson, about 23.5 for Jalen Hurts, 21.5 for Jaden Daniels. And then we got Dak Prescott at 20.5 fantasy points. And then a few guys in the 18 fantasy point range as well. Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield. But those 4 QBs project for 20 plus fantasy points. Also going to be some of the more popular QB options that we have on the slate. If you wouldn't mind, Jordan, can you sort by the ownership there? And you guys will see, if we look at the ownership, 3 QBs pulling double-digit ownership, which also a little bit out of the norm. We've seen a lot of slates. There's been no QBs that have pulled double-digit ownership. We've seen a lot of slates this year where there's only been like one QB with double-digit ownership. But this slate, we've got Lamar Jackson pulling right around 16% ownership. So not only does he project for the most fantasy points in our data of any quarterback this year, but I also think this is the highest ownership projection that we've had on any quarterback for a main slate. Then Dak Prescott is 13.5% owned here. Jalen Hurts, 12% owned. And then nobody else all that popular. Next most popular QB is Kirk Cousins at right around 8% ownership, coming off that massive game where he had, what was it, over 500 passing yards in the overtime game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that is something that's driving some of his ownership, as well as a good matchup against the Carolina Panthers. So that is the top end of the QB position. Let's look at running back next, Jordan. And running back has changed a ton over the course of the week. I've done, let's see. So I did a Wednesday show. I did a Friday show. Now I'm doing the Sunday show. And it feels like every couple of days we're looking at just totally different sorts of things at the running back position. So for instance, Alvin Kamara, he's still our top projected running back at 21 fantasy points here, but he's not the same chalk that he was. Earlier in the week, we had Alvin Kamara, I think Wednesday, Lofty and I did a lineup building show with first initial look at projections and ownership and all that. And Alvin Kamara was nearly 50% owned at that point in time. His projection hasn't really changed all that much. He's still looking good from a projection standpoint, but so much value has opened up at the running back position that his ownership has come down as a result of that. Same goes for Bijan Robinson, another guy who's projected to be really popular earlier in the week. Still project for 19 fantasy points, still pulling ownership at 27%, just not as much ownership as earlier in the week. And the reason for that, if you wouldn't mind sorting by the ownership column there, Jordan, is because we now have Bucky Irving projecting as one of the top running back plays for the entire season, in my opinion. Bucky Irving is going to be the lead back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We are not expecting Rachaad White to be playing today. And Bucky Irving, as is, was kind of starting to siphon some workload away from Rachaad White. So now you've got Bucky Irving, who's really cheap. He's only $5,400 on DraftKings. He is also a great value play over on FanDuel, and he's going to be tough to get away from. I'm going to have Bucky Irving in the majority of my lineups. I was building some this morning and playing around with the Sims, and I think I had Bucky Irving in 80-ish% of lineups or something like that. So he's somebody who I'm certainly going to be getting to in nearly all my lineups and is going to be my most rostered player on the slate. And then you got Tony Pollard, who also looks pretty good. But with that said, he's not the exact overall top points per dollar play that he looked like earlier in the week, just because Bucky Irving is looking like such a strong option. So you got Tony Pollard, 30% owned. Bijan Robinson, just under 30% owned. Then Chuba Hubbard, he's 18.5% there. You got Alvin Kamara at 17%. So that is a roundup of the running backs. But now let's go and look at the wide receivers. And while we are looking at that, I see right away, Chris Cornahan in the chat says, Greg, talk me down from 80% Eckler in 20 hand-built lineups. Yeah, you could play some Austin Eckler for sure with Robinson out again, but you don't need 80% of Austin Eckler. There's a lot of good running back options. The way I'd talk you off of it is play other guys. Play like Bucky Irving. Play guys like Antonio Gibson if you're looking for a lower-owned option who looks like he should be in a bigger role this week because Ramondre Stevenson is out. So a lot of other players to be getting to at the position. That's how I talk you off of them. Doesn't mean you can't play Austin Eckler. Just get yourself exposure to some of these other good running backs. At wide receiver here, we've got a really big gap in projections where CeeDee Lamb is projecting for 20.5 fantasy points, a little bit over 19 fantasy points for Amon-Ra St. Brown. And then there's a massive chasm in projection because the next projected guy is Drake London at 16.5 fantasy points. And then no other running backs or wide receivers even above 16 fantasy points. We've got Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Drake London, and then it's just a bunch of guys that are projecting for like 14, 15-ish fantasy points. So we sort by the ownership here at wide receiver, you guys will see that there is some popularity, like Drake London after a big game in primetime where we saw Kirk Cousins throw for all of those yards. He's pulling 23.86% ownership, but wide receiver pretty flat in terms of ownership. We've got, 3 guys project for north of 15% ownership. It's CeeDee Lamb at 18%, Zay Flowers at 19%, Drake London there at nearly 24%. And that's what you have at the wide receiver position. Much more spread out than we're seeing at running back. Now, finally, tight ends. And then also Kelly Williams, how much Tracy am I getting to? So I'm assuming that is a FanDuel question because Tracy is not on the DraftKings slate. And we'll build some lineups here in a second for FanDuel as well as DraftKings. But yeah, I definitely think Tracy is one of the best overall values on FanDuel. Not quite as strong as say like Bucky Irving or anything like that, but still a good option to be getting to. But at tight end here now, once again, just kind of a shitty slate for tight ends. We've only got, Brock Bowers at 14 fantasy points, McBride at 13.5, Jake Ferguson at 13.5. Then you got Sam Laporta and Tucker Kraft right at 10 fantasy points. So once again, another one of these slates where just nobody projects overwhelmingly well at the tight end position. And then you just got the one chalk option in Jake Ferguson pulling 22% ownership. And then I don't know, Jordan, if you sort by ownership, is there anybody else who's even all that popular at tight end? Not really. K-Dot and 13% owned, then everybody else pulling single-digit ownership. So looks like a slate where probably don't want to be playing double tight end lineups because there are not that many of them that are projecting well. Tight end has just been a shit show for the entire season. And then Eric Ronis in the chat saying that he is surprised Dalton Schultz isn't getting more love. Yeah, I think Schultz is a pretty reasonable contrarian option, especially with Nico Collins out because of that hamstring issue, which I assume is kind of what it is that you were alluding to there. But let's start hand building some lineups now, Jordan. And I think there's a build that people might be interested in for DraftKings that I just want to try out and see how it ends up rating out. And that is a stars and scrubs build, kind of like an NBA sort of lineup where you just play some of the top points per dollar plays on the bottom end and pay up for a lot of studs. And there's so much cheap value that I think there's interesting ways to go about it. So not that I'm like overly enthused with his upside, but put Spencer Rattler in a QB. I just want to see once again what happens if we play a lineup that's just projected for as much fantasy points as we could and just going really heavy stars and scrubs. So QB, plug in Spencer Rattler, Jordan, just 4K starting a QB for the Saints this week. Okay. So if we go Rattler at QB, and now let's go to at running back, let's plug in Bucky Irving and Tony Pollard. Yeah, once again, just going to go extreme stars and scrubs here. Now at wide receiver, we're going to have to start spending some salary. Let's get a mini game stack here. Plug in CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown. This could be where we spend our salary. All right, so we got $44.75 for the remaining salary. Probably want to plug in a cheap defense. So just go to the Titans defense at $2,800. There's a number of defenses that are viable for cheap on this slate. The Buccaneers are one of them, but we've already got in this lineup Spencer Rattler, so we wouldn't want to go to them in this lineup. Patriots defense is $2,400. Titans defense is $2,800. Those are some of the cheap defenses that kind of catch my eye and that I was noticing were showing up in the Sims when I was running them earlier. So if we go Titans defense, we've now got about $5,000 in remaining salary left. So maybe we want to go cheap at tight end as well. And as far as cheap tight ends go, we've already got CeeDee Lamb in the lineups. Probably don't want to go towards Jake Ferguson. We've also got Cade Otton, but we've already got Bucky Irving in the line. I'm not that I think it's that big of a deal to have Cade Otton and Bucky Irving together. But let's just go Zach Ertz at $3,700. Most of the tight ends are terrible. It is what it is. All right, so if we go Ertz at $3,700, we've got $5,700 left for a wide receiver and a flex spot. I want to get some exposure to the Falcons passing game. Let's plug in Ray McCloud. He's a cheap wide receiver that I like for this slate. The volume has been there for Ray McCloud, and his price point has just never really gone up. So pulling up Ray McCloud's numbers so far this year, last couple of games, 9 targets, 7 targets. First game of the season, he also had 7 targets. We're looking at 5+ targets in 4 out of the first 5 games of the season. He's more of a DraftKings play than a FanDuel option just because a lot of his value is going to come from a PPR standpoint. And we got bots in the chat here. So, all right, getting rid of the bots. Everybody's trying to stream the football game for us there. All right, bots are gone. So now we've got $7,100 for the last spot. Let's see. Who projects best? So London's projecting. Click on Flex, Jordan. Because it could be any spot here, really. All right, so we've already got Ray McCloud. I think it's fine to have Are you sorted by projection, by the way? All right, here we go. Yeah, sorted by projection. All right, so let's plug Bijan Robinson into the flex, and then we could see if there's anybody who projects higher than Ray McLeod. See if there's somebody who projects better than Ray McLeod. If not, then we could just upgrade the defense. All right, just put a McLeod in, and then just sub the Titans defense out for whatever defense fits in that projects the best. Cool. Yeah, Chargers works. It'll just make the lineup a little bit better from a projection standpoint. Yeah, Arthur Bland in the chat says, I'm here for the sex bots. I hear you, man. That's why I'm on YouTube as well. But unfortunately, it's just NFL streaming bots that are here. And all right, looks like a good lineup. We got an 81.5% sim ROI. So there's not like a ton of correlation to this lineup, but it just goes to show that for this particular slate, there is so much value that I don't necessarily think you have to heavily correlate your lineups to create upside. You could just get yourself exposure to some of the top points per dollar plays on the slate, even going to like Spencer Rattler. And, realistically, Rattler at 4K, he could have a game where he puts up 11, 12 fantasy points. And if a bunch of studs go off on the slate, Rattler could find himself in a winning lineup. So I think that is one interesting way that you guys could go about building your lineups. Let me check if there's any questions in Discord. And if you guys are a sub to Stokastic, one of the perks is get into our Discord channel. So make sure that is something that you're active in is our Discord, or if you have any questions at all, because you could either ask me questions on shows or off shows about strategy, how the tools work, slate specific stuff. So make sure to join our Discord. And if you are not in our Discord and are not an existing Stokastic sub, you could sign up using the link that we have down below. And a new offer that we have now is if you guys see there's that link down below, you click on it, there's going to be a page that shows all of our affiliate partners for sports books as well as pick'em sites. And we now have a deal where if you guys sign up with any of those books through our link, you get yourself a free month of our core sims for any sport of your choosing. And even if you're an existing sub, you could sign up through one of those links and you could add a month to your subscription. So if you're a football sub right now and maybe you want a basketball sub, you could sign up, get yourself a free month of NBA. Or if you're somebody who is playing football and you want to get another month added to your subscription, sign up down below. It is a super, super cost-effective way to get access to our tools. You just sign up, add a new book, you make a deposit, place a bet, $10, and then just email support and you get hooked up with a free month subscription. You could do that as many times as you want. We've got like 13 different books that are partners down there. So you could really extend your subscription or get a new one for free if you sign up down there with one of those links. Let's go ahead and build a more traditional lineup for DraftKings now, Jordan. Yeah, so we just went out and we built a Stupor Stars and Scrubs lineup, and we saw the results of that. Let's try to make a lineup that's a little bit different than what the field is doing from a stacking perspective. We talked about all the ownership on Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott and Lamar Jackson. Here's a way that I think you get exposure to that Washington-Baltimore game, but make it a little bit different than what the field is doing. And that's go to a Jaden Daniels at QB. Yeah, so let's see how a Jaden Daniels lineup works. And yeah, definitely some players that I like from this game as far as pass catchers go. Most notably for me, Zay Flowers and Terry McLaurin. Neither of them are going to break the bank either. 6,500 for Flowers, 6,400 for Terry McLaurin. Flowers and then McLaurin. And yeah, McLaurin isn't all that popular. Zay Flowers is one of the more popular wide receivers on the slate, but also part of that is because of all the popularity of Lamar Jackson. So here's a way where we're still getting some of the popular players and some of the best projected players, but we're doing it in a way where we've got Jaden Daniels at QB. So we are saving some salary off of Lamar Jackson. We're also getting ourselves a little bit of a lesser owned lineup with Jaden Daniels. So this is a build that I like quite a bit to start some GPP lineups with. And now at running back, it's once again going to be really hard for me to get away from some of the chalk options. So let's go Bucky Irving at running back, Jordan. Yeah, we'll go Bucky Irving at running back. And now for the other running back spot, instead of plugging Tony Pollard in again, let's go to Antonio Gibson at $5,300. We could go really cheap at running back here. Antonio Gibson, talked about it before. He is somebody at $5,300. There is no Ramondre Stevenson in the backfield for the Patriots. He's out at least one game, and it seems to me that Antonio Gibson is going to be the workhorse. And another thing, too, with Gibson is, on paper, this isn't a favorable matchup for a running back going up against the Houston Texans. It's not a great game script, but Antonio Gibson was primarily a pass catching back in the past. So there's definitely a scenario where we could see Antonio Gibson with the Patriots trailing. He might rack up 5, 6, 7 targets. So with that being in mind, if you are looking to get away from guys like Bucky Irving or Tony Pollard, you got Antonio Gibson just right around 10% owned. And I think he's the guy you'd want to pivot to if you're looking for a lesser owned value play. But now we've got a $4,775 remaining for this lineup. Let's plug in at defense. Let's see. Just so that we could get a cheap defense in. Go with the Buccaneers D. We're getting a little bit of a correlation with Bucky Irving and also saving salary, only $2,600. Yeah, Buccaneers defense, totally reasonable option at $2,600. I imagine that they're going to be pretty popular today, but no real issue with that. It's not like there's any crazy chalk at defense projected for today. And now we've got $5,500 remaining. So at tight end, plug in Jake Ferguson at tight end. He is my favorite overall tight end option on the slate. He's a little bit underpriced at $5K. And yeah, so once we got that, we're now at 57. Put him at a tight end, not flex, if you wouldn't mind, Jordan. Yeah, there we go. And then I see we got the super chat there from Christian Smith. Yeah, we'll run that lineup right after we finish this one, and then we'll move over to FanDuel and build some FanDuel lineups. And then Octavius Bailey in the chat says, guys, don't copy and paste this lineup, learn the game. Yeah, for reference, I'm not building these lineups for you guys to copy and paste them because the lineups, even if they do rate out as being positive ROI, what's going to end up happening is if like 70 people play the same lineup in a GPP that we build here, then it's no longer a positive ROI lineup. What I'm really trying to do here is just give you guys an idea of who projects the best on this slate and what certain kinds of lineup builds end up projecting well in our single lineup sims. That's the goal, not for everybody to copy and paste the same lineup. With that said, I'm sure there's going to be people who copy and paste the lineup. It is what it is. So we got a wide receiver and a flex spot left for 57.5. Let's see. If you want to get exposure to a different Falcons wideout, so Ray McCloud, I actually think there's 3 Falcons wide receivers that make for really good options this week. Drake London, Ray McCloud, and Darnell Mooney at $5,300. Mooney had some terrible drops in the primetime game that we saw last week, but it still ended up being a massive game for him. If I remember correctly, the winning lineup actually did have Darnell Mooney in the captain spot. He scored a couple of touchdowns. He had over 100 receiving yards. He has also been a popular target of Kirk Cousins and has that good matchup against the Carolina Panthers. So let's go with Darnell Mooney here. All right. And then once Mooney's in, we've got $6,200 here. So whoever projects best, Tony Pollard, perfect. Pollard fits in this lineup really easily. He's one of the better overall plays on the slate. So let's sim this and see what we get with a little bit of a Commanders-Ravens game stack with slightly reduced ownership by going to Jaden Daniels instead of Lamar Jackson. Looking like a good lineup. Another strong one with an 87.1% sim ROI. So let's go and plug in Christian Smith's lineup now, Jordan. And he is going to a pretty heavy Cardinal stack here. He's got Kyler Murray. He's got James Conner. He's got Marvin Harrison. So let's see how this one rates out. He's got Kyler Murray, James Conner, and then running backs, Bucky Irving as the other RB. Okay, and now wide receivers, Jameson Williams. And then at tight end, also he's got Mooney in this lineup as well. Yeah, so Mooney, Tucker Kraft at tight end. So that's the run back there. Then he's got Tolbert at the flex and the Buccaneers defense. All right, let's see how this one sims out. I think you're probably going to want to get away from James Conner, but we'll see what it looks like. I think we might be able to make this lineup look a little bit better by getting off of, so this rated out as a pretty poor lineup with a negative 56.6% sim ROI. So let's change this lineup up. Instead of James Conner, let's take him out. Let's go to some other spot at the running back position. And then I think we could upgrade Tolbert as well as Jameson Williams. But at running back, instead of going to Connor, let's go Bijan Robinson at running back. So one thing here also is if you look at, so we've got Bijan Robinson project for 19 fantasy points. What's James Conner's projection? James Conner's projection is 14.68. It's not to say that projections are the end all be all, but when you got somebody who's cheaper than another player and they're projecting for, 4.5 more fantasy points, it's going to make a big difference in the sim ROI of the lineup. Because ultimately, even if you're contrarian, there are ways to have contrarian lineups that project pretty well. You just can't have too many sacrifices because then the opportunity cost ends up being too high. So go Kyler Murray, Bijan Robinson, Bucky Irving. We could stick with the core of the lineup with Bucky Irving and Marvin Harrison, Darnell Mooney, Buccaneers defense. But now we got 56.65. So if we went at wide receiver instead, let's see. Who's a wide receiver that, what we might want to do? Instead of Mooney, because I do think the Falcons wideouts all look pretty good, but let's, to give him a little bit more salary, go Ray McLeod instead. So if we went with Ray McLeod, that'll give us now 61.5 for the final two spots. Now we could spend up a little bit more at wide receiver. So let's go to Zay Flowers here instead. And then we've got 5,800 left. And who projects the best at 5,800? Gibson. So we might want to go a little bit higher than Zay. So we either want to go more expensive than Zay Flowers or maybe a little bit less expensive. Let's try for game stack. We could get a little bit more exposure to the Atlanta-Carolina game. Instead of Flowers, plug in Deontay Johnson. And then that would allow us to fit in Tony Pollard. Yeah, if we go 6,100 and then at flex, we could go to Tony Pollard, and this lineup should sim out better. Still a contrarian lineup. You got Marvin Harrison, 3% owned. You got Kyler Murray, who isn't all that popular at QB. You don't need every single spot in your lineup to be contrarian for it to be a unique lineup. And this will give you still a unique lineup that's going to project quite a bit better. So the sim ROI, 14.8%. So it's not like an incredible lineup or anything like that, but it's much improved over what the other lineup is. And it's a lineup that I then think is more playable. It's expected to be a lineup that gets you a positive return as opposed to the other one there, Christian. And I see people in the chat are upset about Gabe Davis. So I'm guessing that means that he does not have one of his games where he has like 3 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Seems like it's probably one of the games where he's dropping every catchable pass thrown to him. I'll check that out after we're done here. But let's go and build some FanDuel lineups now, Jordan. We'll build a FanDuel lineup or two before we wrap up and pass it over to the deep dive guys. All right. So now at FanDuel, let's see. What's a build that we want to do on FanDuel that we couldn't do on DraftKings? One thing I always find is fun to do when we're doing this is building some lineups that focus on the Sunday night football game, because those have been included in all the main slates this year. And there's pretty frequently been good spots to be targeting for these primetime games as well. And another one here where we've got the Giants taking on the Bengals. The Bengals defense has been abysmal this year. But in addition to that, we get a good running back value option in Tyrone Tracy, who a couple of days ago looked like he was going to be uber chalk over on FanDuel. And while he's still kind of popular, we've got him projected for 12% ownership. The emergence of guys like Bucky Irving and Antonio Gibson, that's made it so that Tyrone Tracy isn't like crazy chalk over on FanDuel. So I like being overweight to Tracy on FanDuel at only 12% projected ownership. So let's start our lineups at running back here. And we'll go Tyrone Tracy and Bucky Irving. This will allow us to make some expensive stacks with our QBs and pass catchers. Yeah, see that 11.42% projected ownership for Tyrone Tracy. And then in the chat, Chris Carnone saying Najee's a fade for me. Warren is back. And then Rance asking, is Warren back? Yeah, Jalen Warren was not expected to play earlier in the week, but he's since been upgraded and taken off the injury report. So that makes the running back situation, not that we were dying to play Najee Harris anyway, but it definitely makes him less appealing. So Tyrone Tracy, Bucky Irving at running back. Let's make an expensive stack now. Let's go Dak Prescott, and we'll make a stack of the Dallas-Detroit game. And we'll see if the cheap running backs enable us to easily be able to spend up for some of the expensive players at wide receiver. So let's see if we go to CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's see how much salary that leaves us with. They're both over 9K on FanDuel. All right. Still looking viable. We've got 55.5 left. Let's go a Ferguson as well at tight end. So we get a double stack with Dak Prescott. And he's not all that expensive. It's 6,100. Now for defense, and I see we've got a question in YouTube chat from Avi Schreier. So Avi is saying to us, what spend up defenses do we like on FanDuel? Thank you for the super chat, Avi. None really. Like if I had to spend up for a defense, let's see. If I had to spend up for a defense on FanDuel, there actually aren't even that many expensive defenses. There's only 2 teams that are more expensive than $4,400. If I had to spend up for one, it would be the Eagles, just because you got Deshaun Watson on the other side of the game, and he has been a complete train wreck this year. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the historical numbers, but Deshaun Watson, by the way, the Browns have played, I believe it's the easiest schedule for passing offense of any team in the entire league this year. And despite that, Deshaun Watson is putting up like career worst efficiency metrics and league poor efficiency metrics for the first 5 weeks of the season, even though they've had an extremely easy season to open up the year. So this is going to be the most difficult matchup the Browns offense has found themselves in against the Eagles defense. So if you wanted to pay up for one defense, I would say the Eagles would be the way to go. For the purpose of this lineup, though, let's go cheap at defense, Jordan, and let's see what's viable cheap defenses for FanDuel. Let's go the Falcons defense at $3,800, taking on the Panthers. Okay, that's going to give us 61.5 for our final couple of spots. So now at wide receiver, let's see who's somebody that's around this price point. Maybe a little bit more expensive. That isn't going to break the bank too much. Terry McLaurin, $6,800 on FanDuel. Let's see if we can get to McLaurin. And if there's somebody viable at this price point at flex, who projects the best? If there isn't anybody, then we go a little bit cheaper than McLaurin. Cool. Gibson's 5,500 exactly. Easy. All right. So that ended up coming together. So a game stack here is Prescott at QB, and then we've got a double stack with Jake Ferguson and CeeDee Lamb, then Amon-Ra St. Brown as a run back. And by plugging in 3 value RBs, all ones that I think are pretty solid options for the FanDuel slate, Tyrone Tracy, Bucky Irving, as well as Antonio Gibson, we came away with a 125% sim ROI. So of all the lineups that we've built across FanDuel or DraftKings, this is the one that overall ended up projecting the best. So that's one of the definite benefits of playing over on FanDuel is that you're going to get exposure to the value in that Sunday night football game. And then also, like Kareem is saying in chat, you also got Darius Slayton at $5,900 on FanDuel. Yeah, I don't like Slayton as much this week as last week. If you guys remember when we were building lineups during the show last week, we were plugging in Slayton as a contrarian option, and it's still a good spot to be playing Slayton, but he's going to be a little bit more popular this week. And then in addition to that, he's a little bit more expensive. So still a good option to go to, but he's not like the crazy GPP play that he was looking like when we were doing this show at this time last week. Let's see if there's any other final questions that came in. If not, then we'll hand it over to the deep dive guys. Maxwell saying the Giants don't play until 8:20. How are they on the main slate? Yeah, so FanDuel this year has included the Sunday Night Football games on all of the main slate. So I'm kind of indifferent towards it. Some people like it. Some people hate it. I like it when there's value available. But the thing that I've liked the most about FanDuel this year, which is why I've been playing more on there than I have on DraftKings this season, is they've got all these contests they're offering with guaranteed overlay, most notably the $3 contest that each week is guaranteeing like $100,000 or $50,000 in overlay. So that's a contest I think you guys should be playing in if you're not already. Other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you have not done yet, do me a big favor, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and don't forget, if you sign up down below at any of our Sportsbook affiliates, you get yourself 1 free month of a core package of any of the sports of your choosing. So whether football, basketball, that's going to be starting soon. Sign up using one of those links below, email support, and you get yourself a free month, any sport that you want. Get access to our sims, and all you have to do is sign up with one of those links down below at a Sportsbook. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't go anywhere. Deep Dive is next, followed by Live Before Lock. Good luck this weekend.
Hi.
I had some issues this morning, huh?
Sounds like it. Does everything sound normal here?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Mics are hot. I didn't know that I was going to start fucking with you, but yeah, you're good.
Oh, well. I'm out of breath from running up and down the stairs.
Hey, good morning. You had me laughing there because the stairs have been a problem for you recently.
Big problem. I'm gonna get one of those things where you sit and just takes you up.
Yeah. My grandma had, or my nana had one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, I need one of those.
How you feeling?
Feel good. Great.
How's your back? How's your hip?
No, it's my knee. Took it
Your
right on
knee. I thought it was your back too.
No, well, that emerged, but no, it was my knee.
Ben, after Tuesday's first look show, fell down the steps while we were still talking.
Just a step. It's because of
Doing
you.
good though? You're back?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back in business. Got through college football. We're ready to rock.
Good. Good morning. Welcome to everybody. This is the Stokastic.com NFL Deeper Dive. Week 6 of NFL season goes so fast, doesn't it? Happy to have you guys with us. If I could ask one time, maybe once more later in the show, but take a single second. It is Sunday morning. You know the drill. Atone for your sins. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you greatly for getting us north of 100,000 last week. Had I known that all we had to do was say it was free, Ben, we would have been there a year ago.
Yeah, I tried to tell you, but you didn't want to listen. It's true. All you're doing is supporting and you're getting great content fed to you. It's not, you're not entering any information. It's just a simple click and you're part of the team. So no reason not to do that. Obviously, basketball around, rapidly approaching. It's a great time to be here at Stokastic. So I couldn't be more excited. I'm excited for this slate. Honestly, I like these London games, buys. It narrows down the pool, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, it does. I got the London game playing right now.
What's the score?
3-0 Jacksonville last I looked. I have a lot of bets from this game, though.
I have something, and I can't even remember what it is. I have an anytime touchdown scorer. Oh, Gabe Davis.
Oh, yeah? What put you on Gabe Davis?
He's just one of those guys. We talk about it all the time. He's going to have a couple games. I'm not super. Yeah, Gabe Davis, I like, and I like Kirk, obviously. I always like Kirk. So a couple
Gabe
of those
Davis
guys
is like the perfect alt line guy where you don't even bother betting the ladder.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Do you know what I mean? Like if you're going to do
100%.
it, just throw a unit on the 80 plus or something, because otherwise he's not getting you 20.
No, it's boom or bust. Kirk's really the guy that I could really use falling in the end zone, but we'll keep an eye on that. We'll see. We'll throw in some bets along the way. It was a good day yesterday in the college streets, so I want to keep it going.
I've been smashing NHL with our EV tools. I'm just betting.
NHL.
I don't even know who's playing. I truly have no clue.
You don't need to. Shots on goal. Shots on goal.
Just hammering the unders on like every shots on goal that gets fed to me.
It's so, yeah. Shots on goal is just an infinite money glitch. No joke.
But glad you guys could join us. We got a lot to talk about today. And as always, I have, one of my patented wild takes. A few weeks ago, Justin ended up being chalkier, honestly. But I was on Pickens well before anyone was talking about him in that spot. Okay. The following week, Cortland Sutton, not so much. Last week, my Mega Mind Genius play on Ramondre Stevenson, from a betting perspective, more so than DFS, could not have been more locked in. So just saying, we win some, we lose some. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, there was some good and some bad. The Jags getting clipped by the hook last week was an absolute.
That was tough for you. Yeah, you hit me up as soon as that happened.
Yeah, I hit people up hours before it happened because I knew it was just inevitable that it was landing on 3. But no, it was the slate got out of control. One of those slates where we saw some, the Bengals stack after the early game. And you had actually, it's funny, we were talking about this on the First Look show. There were so many people that had basically the right 1 o'clock stack, and then from the Niners to some of these other teams, there were a lot of landmines in the second tier. And I have a feeling the slate, this is going to play out similar. There's some big games, including the last game, Detroit and Dallas, that are definitely going to define $1 million winners today.
Yeah, I really thought I was live for a massive week until Jordan Mason and Deebo Samuel asleep at the wheel. I know.
You were all over
Mason under. I know. It was a good call.
Every so often I get one of those, and I felt, and to be clear, Jordan Mason's a great player, but I was able to short him a little bit. Now we'll see what we get here, because there's going to be some mega chalk on the slate, I think.
Yeah, let's get into it, man. Glad you guys could join us. Appreciate all of you who support the channel, and it's time to talk about football. Daniel Terry talked me out of a Will Levis with 2 pass catchers stack. Well, look, I'll continue to bury the lead here a little bit, but I will not be the guy doing that today. I will not be. No. I will not. Let me rephrase. I will not be the guy talking you out of this Tennessee offense. Oh, it's going to suck.
I get it. Yeah, it's not going to feel good. It could end predictably bad. I mean, Levis was debatable on a 2-game slate, and now we've got a lot of options, but I get it. I definitely, we'll talk about Tony Pollard, who's going to be one of the cornerstones of this slate, but yeah, there's a lot to get into.
And last thing, Kyle Hecht. Boy, was I wrong about the Bengals-Ravens game last week, Laffy. Quote, Chase and Henry move on. Look, man, we all take our lumps. You know what I mean?
I respect that. I
respect that big time. If you remember Kyle Hecht, he told us to move on because we were spending so much time on that. I ended up boosting the hell out of the Bengals stacks in that game, just because we've seen the history of those 2 teams play. But yes, Kyle Hecht, appreciate you, man. Much respect. I do believe you remember what I'm talking about, though.
Oh, I remember perfectly, but I'll tell you this. Out of all the people, there's always hot takes flying around. 99.999% of people just move on to their next hot take.
Yeah. So, the book 1984, they memory hole it.
Sure. I don't even know what you're talking about, but yeah.
George Orwell, 1984.
Yeah, I know what's going on.
They memory hole it. Not Kyle Hecht. He brings it to the forefront. Let's go.
Let's go.
And Jennifer Parker, atone for your sins. Appreciate you, Jennifer. Appreciate you. Yeah, hit that thumbs up. All right, you ready to do it? Let's make it happen today. 10 games, then we turn it over to Live Before Lock. Eric Lindquist, Matt Kajeski. Got another game happening right now between the Jags and the Bears, but anything happens there, I'll let you know. Anthony Laffey, are you loading up on Hurts, Brown, Saquon stacks? We'll talk about that. There's actually, whoa, look at that. Unintentional, but here we are. First game that we're going to get to, Ben, is Cleveland and Philly. 42.5 point total. Philly 8.5 point favorites. We'll say, though, Jedrick Wills is healthy for the time being on the offensive line for Cleveland. Jack Conklin is back for the first time all year. Listen, this isn't me crowning Cleveland, obviously, but nobody's been pressured at a higher clip. No one's taken more pressures, more sacks than Deshaun Watson this year. A lot of it's been his fault, Ben, without question. But I do think when you actually get good offensive linemen back, it makes a massive difference. So yes, you're not going to absolve Watson of all responsibility. He's been bad. But also his offensive line has been more injured than any offensive line in football this season. And I don't even think it's particularly close. It's been a revolving door of injuries. They get a guy back, another guy goes out.
It's been a mess. There's no doubt that accounts for a lot of it, but not all of it. And I think we're both saying the same thing. And the Browns are a mess. And at times I've targeted them, and it hasn't even been to great failure. Honestly, Amari had opportunities. I've talked about a couple weeks in a row. He had an 80-yard touchdown called back a couple weeks ago on a phantom holding call. but it does seem like on this slate in particular, the Browns are on the outside looking in. I will get right to a quick take from my Tails Discord. I actually, and I don't bet a lot of these, I used the Eagles in my teasers. I crossed them right through and got them down to 2.5. I think the Eagles are going to handle this game, need to handle it, and I think they will. So I'm just really not high on the Browns in really any fashion today.
Okay. Me neither. I will say this much, though. If there's one player from the Browns that I'm more than willing to at least entertain in large field tournaments, you must know who it is.
Jerry Jeudy.
It's Amari.
Well, sure, but
what?
No, so the thing about Amari that's tough is not only is it, I think, just, Cleveland is struggling. He's in a pretty crowded range. When I looked at this slate, I was stunned at how much the, give or take 6K plus or minus 500. There was a lot of guys that I was interested in, and that made it tough.
No, it does. It does. And look, there's still zero. There's still nothing to suggest that Watson's just going to start being better now that Conklin's back. All I'm saying is I think it probably makes a difference. Amari's been getting a ton of targets. He's only caught 40. He's got to be catching like less than 50% of targets this year. I mean,
he's got, let's see, I can do 29, 37, 47 targets, and he's got 20 receptions. So
there you go.
Not great. That's 44%, something like that. Not good.
I don't think I'll have much of him. Greg the Gifted said Philly only has 6 sacks on the season. It's amazing, Greg, that they only have 6 sacks on the season. It really is. Granted, they had a bye week, but even so, it hasn't been good. I'll say this much: they can still disrupt a quarterback. You could still disrupt a quarterback for sure with that D line, but they're not finishing the job. It's true. I'd have to look up their pressure rate, but either way, I would say that Amari would be one guy I'd entertain. I think Barkley on the other side, though, just given the ownership here, might be something that we're overlooking. And let me explain to you where I'm at. Now, I bet the over here, 81.5. That came up quite a bit since I bet it earlier in the week. He's, cleared that number in every week, some of them on big runs, but you'll take the big runs any day. Cleveland's run defense has been shockingly suspect this season, Ben. And when you see some of the chalk that comes in on a slate like this, I'm going to pull up, Jordan, pull up ownership on running backs. So just go to running backs and pull up running, because Philly's coming off a bye as well. They're getting healthy. Yeah, get out of the matchup. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So Irving with no Rashad White, Tony Pollard against a bad Colts defense, Bijan Robinson against a bad Carolina team, Chuba Hubbard in that spot against Atlanta. He's getting a ton of work. Brooks isn't back yet. Go down the list. Where is Barkley coming in at from an ownership perspective?
He's like over 5%, right around there last time I saw it.
6.6%. So he has 94% of the running back touches this season for Philly. Obviously, Jalen Hurts gets a lot, but if you like Philly in this game, then you shouldn't expect Hurts to run a ton in this game. Cleveland's allowing 5 yards per attempt. They've given up more 20-plus yard runs than any team in the league. They've been surprisingly underwhelming on the ground. And I think a lot of that, they're just getting worn down every week because the offense can't stay on the field.
I mean, you just look at it with Saquon. I think you make a pretty good case that the game script last time out against Tampa is not going to be even remotely similar to what we should see here. They're one of the biggest, if not the biggest favorite on this entire slate. So you look at it, I'm not going to push back on Saquon. I do think it's kind of an against the grain way to build, because you mentioned, look at the, 4 most popular running backs. 5,400, 6K, 66, and 63. Most people are landing in that mid-range. They're not saying, let me spend an extra 2K on a running back like Saquon, and I think that shows in the ownership.
It definitely shows in the ownership. And so that's just one of the reasons why I would say, plus, and Lane Johnson's back. They're fully healthy on the offensive line. So just throwing it out there, guys, if there's a low-owned guy that I do like in this game, it's Barkley, just because of the insane volume that he's been getting. So that would be my guy. I know he's expensive, but he's just not getting ownership, Ben. Anybody else you want to talk about from either side? Because you can't go to Goddard now that Brown and Devontae Smith are back.
Oh, no. He's, his price will start to regress because of, the full role. And it's funny, those guys are back, but I'm not really interested in them a ton either. And I don't think the field is. They're great players and they can always have a game. But I look at Philly, I expect them to play well as a whole, but given the price points and given the weapons, is enough production going to consolidate around any one player to really put them, in tournament winning upside? Of course, the answer can be it could happen, but I'm not that worried about not getting to a guy like AJ Brown or Devonta Smith, even though, of course, you respect the talent.
It's kind of the reason I like Barkley, because I think if it were to consolidate around one person, the offense were to consolidate around one person in the spot, if it plays to the script that the odds suggest, that the line suggests, feels like it would be Barkley.
Better play to that script. Yeah, I agree. They should be playing from ahead. They should be wearing down Cleveland. Short fields are very possible with the dumpster fire that is Cleveland. So I think that checks out. I'm not hurt. Is also just, he's Jalen Hurts. He's obviously in play, but he's going to have expensive pairings. Even if you go skinny, it's not the easiest stack to make.
Anybody else from this game?
No, I mean, you could always, I think, go with the defense, particularly the Eagles side. We've talked about how questionable Cleveland's offense is, but I think we both know with defense, the variance nature of it, it's not really a take.
All right, let's keep it moving here. So, and Chicago just scored, by the way. Cole Kmet found the end zone. Houston and New England.
That's not helpful.
Houston and New England. The Texans 6.5 point favorites, 37.5 point total. All right, so Joe Mixon's expected to play now. That, early in the week, it looked like he was about to miss another one. Dameon Pierce is back. So this means that now you don't really have to do much as far as considering Cam Akers or Dario Gumbawale. Robert Woods is out, and Nico Collins is on the IR. On the other side, Ramondre Stevenson's out, and then like Kendrick Bourne, KJ Osborne, those guys are questionable. We had a guy in Polk that played, 100% of snaps last week or something. What do you make of Houston this week? This was at 7. It actually moved below 7, inside now at 6.5. Really low total. This offense did not look the same after Nico went out last week. They looked great early on against Buffalo, then scored 9 points over the remaining 3 quarters of that game. How do you, and now Robert Woods is out, whose snap share actually came down last week. You would, kind of be surprised that he didn't get targeted after Nico went down. Where do you go here for Houston?
So I think where you go would be, the next man up in the wide receiver room, and that's going to be Dillon Diggs. I think that's pretty clear. But my larger question is, do we need to go anywhere? Because I think this is a not great spot from the total to just hitting the road. I wouldn't be stunned. I mean, we've seen a laundry list of bizarre results. I said this on Tuesday. Wouldn't be stunned to see New England really give them a game here.
Would you be surprised to see them win?
No. I mean, relative to the fact that they're not a good football team. But no, it wouldn't shock me. Like, I would be shocked. Famous last words. Here we go. Like, if the Eagles lost today, I really would.
Don't say that.
No, they're not losing. They're not losing.
Okay. Houston, I can appreciate your conviction. I'm still blown away by this. I may have mentioned it to you on Tuesday, but teams who are 6+ point dogs this season are 16-2-1 against the spread and 11-8 straight up. Now, you do the Survivor video, so you understand this better than anybody. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, honestly. Like, covering is one thing. I say this a lot. That's why they give you the points, because the team sucks. These teams are just winning. And it's not even, like, I have to adjust my priors. Like, I'll use, like, Baltimore. Man, the Raiders beat them. Like, I guess I was wrong about Baltimore. Nah, they're just actually amazing. It just makes no sense. These teams are just having weird slip-ups. And I think Houston's a really good team. Wouldn't be shocked if they struggle here. Having said that, though, Tank Dell and Diggs, they're going to be in for volume. Gibson on the other side is by default going to be in for volume. And I guess my question for you is, do you think that Gibson, regardless of game script, is just involved? To me, I think the answer is mostly yes.
I would say yes. Yeah. Last week you could smell the BS from a mile away from Gerard Mayo. It's just the way it goes. Why would you keep your best player off the field? It doesn't, you know what I mean? Gibson has fumbling issues too. It doesn't make any sense. Yes, I think, but what I'm saying is with Ramondre Stevenson out this week and the fact that they already, have some trust in Antonio Gibson, I would think that, yeah, he's going to be pretty significantly involved today. What do we have his ownership at right now?
Like 15%.
So not crazy high.
No.
Yeah, 14%, like the sixth highest owned running back on the slate. $5,300. Nah, Gibson looks pretty good. Obviously, Bucky Irving at that price point, the same price point, he's been very good, and it's hard not to like him in a spot like this. Yeah, Gibson's the one guy from this Patriots team that I'd be willing to consider. You might have some people that, in your words, would go super mega mind genius and be like, hey, I want Jalen Polk this week because he played 100% of snaps. There's a level of unknown in this offense with Drake May taking over for Jacoby Brissett. I don't want the passing game. If I'm going anywhere here, it would be Antonio Gibson. This offensive line is still a mess, though. There's still problems there. I don't know if May's going to get time to throw the football. He's probably going to have to run. Gibson would be the one guy for the Patriots that I'd be looking at.
Agree.
And I don't love him, by the way. I think the touchdown equity here is pretty insignificant, but the volume alone, it's 15 or 14% is enough for me to get some.
He certainly has passed. That's what I like about him. Like, again, he doesn't, when I say need to score, you always could use a touchdown, and particularly if you're going for a ceiling, but he could have 9 targets. He could have 15 rushing attempts. He could have a random touch. Like, there's just a lot of ways he's involved, but it's still a New England team with no semblance of an offensive plan. And I do think, I like Drake May. I think he's going to be pretty good. It's not going to be today, though.
Would you be looking towards because Houston's a weird team without Nico, would you be looking towards a Xavier Hutchinson or something like that to get cheap?
I don't think so. And it's more product of the slate than an individual player. Like I haven't finalized anything, but I just haven't been pressed for that type of value, because what have we talked about so far? Almost all the top owned guys in the first couple games are in the mid tier. And when you're peppering that range, you're not like, oh, I need to find a complete, bottom priced guy to really leverage. So I'm just not really looking at that type of construction.
So I would look at it like this. If you're going with the crazy expensive stacks, I don't actually hate it, especially with Woods out. It's not the worst thing in the world to me to get to some $3,500 Hutchinson. But if you asked me earlier in the week on Tuesday, and we knew Woods was out, obviously Collins being out, then I would have had a lot more interest. But we've just had a lot of value open up throughout the week, and that's kind of how it happens. It goes that way all the time.
Every week. We talk about on the First Look show a lot where we don't need to be pressed for value because it organically opens up, and it's only going to get worse. More and more teams. I don't, maybe this is a me thing in chat. You could tell me, does it not seem this year that injuries are even more bizarre? Like, guys are just like Pittman back. Like, what is going on with the injuries this year?
I don't know. And I don't think we even said this last year. They're usually pretty rough, but it's been all over the place this season.
It's nuts.
In game, in practice, at home. It's like one of your step falling incidents. I feel like we even have more of these fluky situations. It's brutal, but
the difference is I played through it. These guys are not playing. Like, I'm here.
Would you be going to Joe Mixon today?
No. There's just, my question would be why. We have an absolute abundance of running backs in clearer roles, not coming off some sort of issues, obviously. Just feels unnecessary.
It does. For me, I think Hutchinson's fine. I would honestly rather get to him than Tank Dell or Diggs, just because they're preemptively priced up. Whereas at least with Hutchinson, he's basically minimum salary.
It's a different price point. I'll give you that. I don't think it's going to fit most of what I'm trying to do lineup wise.
All right. So Gibson, top play from this game for you pretty easily. Am I fair to say that?
Gibson and then Dell on the other side.
Next up. All right, let's talk about Washington, Baltimore. Brian Robinson's out, so that's a significant one. No Brian Robinson. Austin Eckler. So, all right, Baltimore's run defense is still very good. By the way, 51.5-point total. Ravens are 6.5-point favorites at home. Baltimore's run defense is excellent. Probably the best in football. Their secondary has had real trouble this year. I mean, holes. They've given up big production. We've seen week over week. I think I've mentioned to you a lot. The amount of 20-plus passing plays they've allowed is through the roof. They're on pace to double what they allowed last year. Now, on the other hand, Austin Eckler, if he produces today, I am not even remotely confident that it happens on the ground. As a matter of fact, I hate the ground game for Austin Eckler. I bet the under 47.5 rushing yards. It's down to 41.5 last I looked. He does not have a good rushing prop today, Ben. So, look, maybe I'm just flat out wrong, but if Austin Eckler did happen to get there, it's going to be through the air. Also, how much do they decide to use Jeremy McNichols in this game? I just keep coming back to Austin Eckler might have a significant role in the passing game today.
You would think so, and I think the game script is going to lead right to that. I like Baltimore a lot today. Probably my favorite bet, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm so shell-shocked on betting these 6+ point favorites.
Me too, but it's going to turn, and I think it's today. Obviously, Washington's answered the call at every point. They've been awesome. I don't like this matchup for them. When I look at it, I think it's somewhat reflected. You've got McLaurin, and certainly the Ravens secondary hasn't been stellar, putting it mildly. They can be exploited. You mentioned the gigantic chunk plays that they've been giving up. So I get it. Eckler can catch the ball, but what else is there? Daniels, he's been ridiculous, but he's priced with the other elite quarterbacks. So that's a big decision to make today.
All right. Well, I like Baltimore more as a teaser piece on the 6-point teaser, personally.
They're with the Eagles.
Sure. Oh, okay. So the reason I like that is because Lamar's 21-1 career as a starter against NFC teams. 21-1, Ben. And the only game he lost, do you remember this? It was that Giants game where they had a touchdown lead, and then he got picked off, and then it was a sack fumble, and the Giants were on that ridiculous sun run a couple of years ago where everyone's going I
remember that.
They were covering as a dog every week, right? And then just outright winning a lot of those games, go to the playoffs. They beat the Vikings in the wild card round. And then the Eagles just mopped them up in the divisional round. You go, oh, there they are. But it took them till the second week of the postseason to show their true colors. That's the only game he's lost. It's the only game he's lost. But
we're not going to lose it today. So,
well, I hope not, because there's a few spots I really like in this game. I think Terry McLaurin is a perfectly strong spot. They can't cover downfield right now, the Baltimore Ravens. They can't. We saw it with Higgins last week. We saw it with Chase last week on multiple occasions. They have a good ground defense. They are a run funnel defense a pass funnel defense. So I like McLaurin here. I don't know how much Jaden Daniels I'm going to get to, though. I kind of like the one-offs on McLaurin. If I'm playing Jaden Daniels, it's going to be a skinny stack with Terry.
No doubt about it. Obviously, he's got dual threat ability, so you can get there in other ways. McLaurin would be the guy on that side. And then I'm a little surprised that the field is giving my guy Zay Flowers as much love as I see right now. I was hoping that he would be lower owned because I thought he would be a great target, but it seems like a lot of people are recognizing what I think is just this is a good spot. And the 12 targets last week probably did that. He had 6 targets combined over the last 2 weeks before that explosion. Zay Flowers at 65, I think checks a lot of boxes today.
Give me your top 3 plays from this game.
Flowers is 1, McLaurin is 2. I mean, look, Lamar's Lamar. I like that. I don't know what you want me to say about that. He's Lamar. He's amazing. And he would be my preferred quarterback of the 2 clearly in this game.
Yeah. Humble said, really, Jaden can be solo in your lineup, but Jaden plus Ertz. Yeah. I mean, I guess if you want to pair him with Ertz, fine, but it's just, that would just be because the tight end position stinks. Not because Ertz is like a high upside guy that needs to be tied. Like if I'm tying a guy to him, I'd rather it be Terry just because of the huge playability in a spot like that. But yeah, we saw Naked Lamar end up winning we saw Naked Lamar win the Millie last week, Ben.
Well, that was, if you have a time machine, you don't need to worry about these nuanced things.
Right.
But
Terrible ball by Caleb Williams, by the way, just got picked off.
Well, the Jags need all the help they can get, so we'll take that. I think the one guy, of course, we need to mention, and it's not great analysis because it's true. It's just what it is. Derrick Henry could rumble for, $180 and 3, and that's what he could do. But at the same time, I think we've seen time and time again with some of these guys that are so reliant on touchdown equity. He had another lone target last week, and he had 15 carries for 92 yards and a touchdown, and he wasn't even close to really getting you there in a significant way. And so I get it. He has, I think, the highest anytime touchdown, line of anyone out there. It's ridiculous. And he's probably going to comfortably find the end zone once, but I don't think one touchdown does it.
I actually liked Saquon Barkley over Derrick Henry today.
Yeah. I get it.
They're pretty similarly owned. They're only 1% off. I have no problem with Henry, only because, like you said, he can always go nuts. But that's a really expensive price point on a slate like this at a running back position now that has a lot to offer. Jordan, by the way, you can use the data. You can use the data hub over on the Sims. It's a lot cleaner, a lot nicer looking than what you're using now. That's what I would recommend using. But all right, yeah, Zay Flowers. Would you go to? Someone asked me about Justice Hill the other day. To me, it's just like such a. I don't even want to say boom or bust spot because he's only had one game that could have justifiably gotten you there this season. The rest, at that price point, with all of the value at running back, Justice Hill, I can't see myself getting there.
No, he's a great player, but his role is just not enough. Reminds me a little of like Spears and what we've seen with Tennessee, where it's just a role thing. It's not enough, but he could be a vulture.
Yeah, well, in the passing game too. Tampa Bay and New Orleans. By the way, guys, I don't know if you watched Friday's show with Greg and myself, but I mentioned it multiple times. If you look, we still have 2.5 hours until lock, right? 2.5 hours.
Yep.
If you still haven't heard about this and you've been on the fence forever, like I'd like to try the tools, but it's just not in the finances right now, or this reason or that reason, or I was burned by another site, right? Or another site I tried, their tools weren't any good, so now I'm suspicious and skeptical. All of that, I understand. You shouldn't be skeptical of these tools, but I understand why people in the past, with all of that. Right now, click on the description. Do me a favor, or throw it in the link in the chat too, Jordan. You'll see gets the Stokastic Sims free. This is our core package. It's the $99 a month package, right? Has everything. The only difference between this and Max is that with Max, you can generate up to 10,000 lineups. With core, it's 1,000. But every single other aspect, the Sims, the single lineup builder, ownership, player projections, top stack tool, boom bust, premium Discord, lineup generator, everything for NFL or any sport. If you sign up on any of these books or pick'em sites, Underdog, FanDuel, Vivid, BetMGM, Pick Six, DraftKings, Better, Caesar, Sleeper, Bet365, which by far has the best sign-up promo and the best bonuses right now. If you sign up on any of them, deposit their minimum and make a bet. After that bet settles, just send us a screenshot. Everything is right there on that page in the description. You are getting a free month of our $99 core package for NFL or any sport of your choosing, 100% for free. So again, if you've been thinking about it, there's no better. I guarantee there's one of those spots up there. What do we have? 11 that you're not on yet. Bet365, again, clearly the best bonus if you have it there, but it doesn't have to be Bet365. Any one of them. And the craziest part, Ben, it's a free month for every single one of those that you sign up, deposit, and place a bet.
You can stack them, no doubt. One thing I just want to make abundantly clear, it says it on the screen, you have to use that link provided. We want to make sure that people get the free month, of course. So you have to use that link. It's very simple. Use that link. Pick the sites that appeal to you, that fit what you're doing, and then start stacking up a ton of value. It's really that simple. It's a win-win for everyone. And you have more options now to get exposure to all using these tools. That's the beautiful thing. Use the tools to make money on the sites that you just got on.
That's it, baby. I mean, there's never been a better, easier, more affordable way to get access to the entirety of the month for our tools for NFL. So there it is. Link down there in the description. Click the claim now on any of those books you want, any of those pick'em sites, and email us after your bet settles with the screenshot and the welcome email. That's it. You got the free month. And what better time than now? Doubleheader Monday coming. Just a ton of stuff coming up for NFL and basketball coming up. You can grab an NFL and an NBA. So link down there. If you have any questions, hit us up. All right. Tampa Bay, New Orleans, 42.5 point total. So the Saints were favored, Ben, and the look ahead line before the Chiefs game. Then Carr wasn't only bad, but he got hurt and now he's out, and it's Spencer Rattler. Now they're 3.5 point dogs. It moved to 2, it moved to 2.5, moved to 3. It moved through 3 now to Tampa. Rashad White's doubtful. Trey Palmer, Cameron Johnson are out. Jalen McMillan's questionable. Got a full practice in Friday. You'd think he'd play. In another world, McMillan might actually be a decent value play on this slate. Probably not the case today. But Bucky Irving at that price point, he's got a 62.5 point rushing total. With Rashad White doubtful, I should say, it's too good of a spot to ignore. And he's been very efficient this year outside of that fumble late in last week's game.
It's his time. I mean, I think a lot of people, including you, have been waiting to see what he can do maybe with an elevated role. First thing I checked out over on OddsShopper was his carries. What are the books projecting for carries? And it's sitting around 15, 14 and a half, things like that. So right off the bat, they're saying, okay, this guy is going to have serious work in the backfield. He's not a zero far from it in the passing game. So you're working with a guy that can do really a little bit of anything that they need him to do. And I don't fear New Orleans much, if at all. So 5,400, everything checks out except he's going to be crazy popular, and he should be. Simple as that.
Yep. Quickly, Game Banger said, where do we send the screenshot to? Not seeing the email. Look up top. When you click that link on the page, sign up with our partners to get DFS Sims tool for free. Step 4, email support at Stokastic.com. It's Stokastic.com. So step 3, take screenshots of your welcome email and your first settled bet, and then email support at Stokastic. It's super easy. It's 4 quick steps. Just read those again. You'll be in. And by the way, shout out to our boy Ron for handling customer support on all this stuff. Yeah. He's got his hands full, but we appreciate him. He does a great job. So shout out News God and say hi to him and thank him for his service whenever you get the chance. But yeah, Bucky Irving, super, super popular. What do you think of this game when it comes to the passing game for Tampa? Because first of all, Mike Evans against Marshawn Lattimore it's like his kryptonite, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming he'll be good until he gets ejected, and then we'll see. But no, I mean, obviously they're going to be locking up, and I think for most people, and ownership reflects it, sets the stage for Chris Godwin. I mean, Godwin's a super consistent player. The targets are always there. He had a pedestrian output against the Falcons, but he's already got 3 touchdowns on the year, very stable. Sub 7K. I know he's, 6,900, so marginal, but I think he's a very solid play. And then even you mentioned filling a bad tight end position. What about Cade Otton? He's got touchdown equity. He can maybe get some of the target share considering some of the wide receiver 3s that have gone down. I think those 2 guys do make sense today for Tampa's offense, regardless of what you do with Baker.
I don't hate Otton. I mean, he's got a 3.5 reception prop today.
Yeah, he's
healthy. Got 16 receptions over his last 3 games after being a ghost through the first 2 weeks. No, I don't think Otton's all that bad. He's cheap. It's a bad position, like you said. No issues with it. I'll say this much, though. If I'm getting to Tampa pass catchers, it's not just so I can get leverage off of a popular Bucky Irving. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, definitely not. I don't think you need to take that mentality. You can look to these guys, and I think it's a decent game environment. I'm fine with basically any of the main weapons for Tampa.
So am I. I don't love Mike Evans in this spot, though. I prefer Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving. Cade Otton looks pretty decent to me as well. All of those guys are fine. I don't love the stack in this game. Not at super high total. New Orleans defense, I still have quite a bit of respect for. But I don't mind those guys as one-off spots here.
No, I'm not in love with the stack either. There's just too many other quarterbacks that I think piqued my interest, but that doesn't mean that some of these one-offs can and won't be involved.
Yep. Also, Demario Davis, Willie Gay, both of them back. Davis was last week, but Willie Gay's back. So now it's just Pete Warner that they're missing there from, just recent weeks. So that helps. That helps a lot. On the Saints side, what do you do here? Because you could go, well, Rattler's just going to check down the Kamara, or you take his word for it, and he said he's just going to pepper Chris Olave. I don't know what to make of this. Taysom Hill is out. Derek Carr is out. Spencer Rattler's starting. I think that you probably get a lot of work for Alvin Kamara today. The question is, how efficient are we going to get work in this game?
Certainly the efficiency is the biggest concern, and it's always a little awkward because, there's never say never, but how realistic is it for Kamara to chip in with a lot of rushing yards against Tampa's front? I mean,
I don't think it's super likely.
That's what I mean. So it's like, okay, let's take away that. So now we're taking not a cheap running back, and we're making him, a top end pass catcher at 77. How much volume? I mean, Kamara can do it, of course, if he really gets the volume, but what if he doesn't? What if he even gets, 6-7 targets? Now what are we doing? I worry about that a little bit. I know he doesn't project well, and he's not going to be popular. I think Olave is due for a bounce back. He was absolutely, I don't even know if he was awful in the last game, as much as just they did not really give him ample opportunities. He had 2 catches for 10 yards against Kansas City on 4 targets. That's just not good enough. I think he's going to see double-digit targets here. He's going to be clear pivot and leverage in that range. I'm willing to roll the dice on Olave today.
Despite the quarterback situation.
That's a mystery to me. There's enough variance where it's like, okay, yes, that could end in unmitigated disaster, but it's not impossible that Rattler is not efficient, but the volume is so big that Olave gets a ton of targets. Yeah, I think Rattler can be fine.
Okay. 50 yard receive, 46.5. Well, let's say we'll take one with the minus 110. FanDuel's at 50.5.
To me, that's low.
You should bet the over.
I might actually.
All right. What do we got here?
You mentioned for a long time, the way Tampa's constructed, it should set up for Olave.
It should. Yeah, it should. I mean, they are, even though the run defense isn't as good as they've been in the past, it's still a pass funnel defense.
That's what I mean.
All right. What's he priced at is the question. I forget his price. 66. All right. It's not crazy. I don't hate the idea of getting a little off the board with Olave. I actually don't. Plus, Alvin Kamara is pretty popular in this spot. What's Olave's ownership?
Last time I saw it, I think it was 3%.
3% on Olave. Yeah, we have it at 3.1%. It's very low.
Saying. You know what you're getting into, but Chris Olave to me still has 10, 12 target equity in a game that I don't fear the secondary.
Yeah. I have more concerns about Alvin Kamara than anybody else at that ownership.
So do I.
But I would imagine I'm still going to have a decent amount just on volume. I mean, it's really just a volume play on Alvin Kamara. I don't see how you can avoid that, right? Are you just not playing Alvin Kamara, or is this a spot where you're not overweight to him? Because for me, I would like to be with the field on Kamara today.
Yeah, I don't think you need to make an aggressive stand on him, but when you just look at where do you want to allocate, your spend up options, to me, there are numerous wide receivers, and I think I'd rather go get Saquon for $500 more than get Kamara at pretty sizable ownership. It's not like he can't do it. He's still a very good player, but I don't love the spot, all things considered.
Einsteinium said they said this week they were going to pepper Olave, but I don't believe coach speak. Was it Dennis Allen or was it Rattler? Because I heard Rattler was the one saying, like, if I'm out there, I'm going to be peppering Olave. That's what I heard him say.
He should.
Yeah, he should. He should. All right. How about this Arizona Green Bay game? I'm having a tough time with this because it has a 47-point total. We'll have injury updates on some of these games shortly, right? By 11:30, once Eric and Matt go live. So that should be helpful. I don't know what to do here for most of this game. I feel like it could go nuts and end up being a shootout, but where are the spots that you really want to prioritize? Because on one hand, you have Josh Jacobs. That's good. Fine. I still don't buy into Arizona's defense, despite that win last week. That win, not the win that you could see a mile away, but you could definitely see them competing from a mile away in that spot against San Francisco after getting blown out at home by Washington. But then we don't know if Watson's playing yet. You have Jaden Reed, who's not a high volume guy. He's just really efficient. You have Romeo Doubs, who will be back. Dontavian Wicks, Tucker Kraft. What a crowded receiver room. Plus Kraft now is emerging. Plus Josh Jacobs. I have no clue what to do with Green Bay today, which I feel like is just going to lead me to have less of them altogether.
Green Bay is going to quickly emerge as maybe one of the toughest teams to decipher week in and week out, because they don't have what I would view as any type of priority list. It seems like a hot hand situation. And yes, Jaden Reed probably has emerged, but so is his price. He's up to 7,000. That's a lot. Obviously, Kraft ran really hot with touchdowns, helped me a little bit and a lot of people last week. And then you've got the backfield with Jacobs. You've got, Wicks and Dubes. I don't have a lot to say about them. I think there's the benefit. You have every price point available if you want to go to Jordan Love in terms of making those stacks work. The negative is week to week, there's not going to be a lot of fluidity on who gets the target share. I think that's pretty clear.
There isn't, and that's why that's what I don't feel comfortable with, is that we just are completely uncertain. Jaden Reed's the best in the offense, but it doesn't mean that and he's not cheap either.
Not cheap at all.
No, you're paying $7,000 for him. Dobbs is 5,200. Wicks is what, 5,200? They're all up there, respectively, right? Like, relatively speaking, I don't have a ton of love for this spot at all this week. And maybe they just get it done. Maybe you just shoot your shot with Jordan Love and throw two receivers in there, Ben. But playing Love with Jaden Reed's expensive when he's probably like a 6 target per game guy.
Yeah, I definitely don't like that spot. And then I look to the backfield and I say, okay, Jacobs, I think he's in a pretty good spot, but what is he really? Again, I worry about some of these backs at times with Josh Jacobs. Is it all going to have to be on the ground? And if so, you're looking at he's going to need to clear the bonus or probably fall in the end zone twice. And those are lofty goals. That's not easy to do for any running back. So at 67, all of these Packers guys, I think we're saying the same thing. They're all in play, but none of them excite me or give me any comfort if you're clicking those names.
Politsia, I don't know how to pronounce that. He's saying that Jaden Reed is locked in, or he's saying that I'm way low on Jaden Reed, that he's the clear top of the hierarchy there. Well, I don't know, man. He had 6 targets against Philly with Jordan Love. He had 8 targets in a game where they played with a massive deficit and wasn't even the leader in targets that game. I think Wicks had like 13. Against the Rams, he had 6 targets. So, yeah, I think everybody agrees he's pretty good. But what do you have that you can definitively look at and tell me, like, this is what I don't understand, Ben? What do you look at and say that, no, he's clearly the number 1 target getter for this team, and it's not close to what he's saying in chat? What am I missing outside of the fact that he probably should be? Because he has a 19.7% target share this year. Wicks is at 20.4. Romeo Doubs is at 17. Tucker Kraft is at 16. So please tell me what I'm missing.
Nothing. That's the reality of it. He's had more than 6 targets once this year.
Yeah, and they were playing with a massive from behind. He had 8 targets in that game. Dontavian Wicks had 13 targets in that game, right? So Romeo Doubs had 8 targets in that same game.
And I agree that Reed should consolidate some of that, but it hasn't really happened so far. And when you're paying $7,000, it better happen, because you need to
That's
run
what I'm saying.
Crazy efficient, if not.
So the game where Reed, and I love Jaden Reed. Like, I'm a big fan of Jaden Reed's game. I really am. But the game that he had 8 targets against Minnesota, he was third on his own team in targets, tied with Romeo Dobbs. So, look at it however you want, but $7K for me on a guy that I can't guarantee his volume on a day where we have a lot of good mid-range options. I'm just not there. I'm also not huge on like Marvin Harrison this week or really anything.
I'm not big on Marvin Harrison. I'm not looking to pay that. The one guy that I think is intriguing to me is Trey McBride. He nearly caught a touchdown last week. He comes back from injury, and I think they're a more dynamic offense when he's there. And he's only played in 4 games. He's got 30 targets on the year. Hasn't found the end zone yet, but they're clearly looking to him when they get there. He makes sense. If you want to get rid of a tight end because the scarcity at the position, I think if you have the money, Trey McBride is fine today.
I think so too. I'd prefer him and Brock Bowers are those 2 guys where it's like they could be fine. But Bowers is tough in that Aiden O'Connell spot against Pittsburgh. You prefer McBride over Bowers today?
It's close, but yeah, I do.
The problem I have with Bowers, and we'll get there in a second, is how does Pittsburgh not try to just remove him from the game, right? Like with no Devontae Adams, a doubtful Jacoby Myers. So what, it's Brock Bowers and Trey Tucker against the Steelers D?
Yeah, that's the big problem is that there's a chance that nobody on the Raiders thrives. Whereas with Arizona, I feel pretty confident in saying there will be a handful of touchdowns to go to disperse amongst this Cardinals team.
Would you go to James Conner here? He's the sneakiest one for me that if I wanted to get anywhere here, and there's a guy that's not really getting much love, who has been the workhorse back. This game could stay close. It is a 5.5-point spread, but we've seen these big spreads and how they play out this year. James Conner at 5%, I think he's at least worth consideration.
I mean, his volume this year, you have to consider him. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he's been walking into 20 touches regardless of game script. I don't love the matchup, I'll be honest. I don't think it stands out in any conceivable way. And his price, I don't think it's crazy. It's hung in a similar range. He started at 62 this year, went to 64, 66, 65, 68. And you're really evaluating it on it doesn't matter where he was. It's just about this week. But yeah, I have McBride as really the most intriguing play from this entire game.
Anthony with a super chat. The 5K running back range on FanDuel, Tracy, Bucky, Gibson, rank them, please. Okay, so on FanDuel, that is the Tampa Bay game. Or I'm sorry, the Cincinnati Sunday Night Football game.
Yep.
With the Giants. I'd go Tracy, Irving, Gibson. I'd put Tracy ahead of Irving.
I go Irving, Tracy, Gibson.
Okay.
To me, the biggest gap is from 2 to 3.
What's that?
To me, of those 3, the biggest gap is from whoever you have second to third.
Agreed. But I think Gibson's kind of the clear 3 there.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Eternum, am I pronouncing that right? Thanks for the super chat. Question: for some of the back end stats like separation rate, target share, red zone carries, is this calculated in-house or connection to a third party? I mean, a lot of it all. I'm not going to get into all of that. What were you going to say?
I'm not saying anything. I was just staring at the.
Plus, a lot of that isn't me anyway. So, yeah. But if you ever wanted to email us and reach out with some questions, we'd be happy to help, dude. With what's realistically with what we can. Anything else on this game?
No, nothing else from this game.
James Conner's sneaky here.
This game, I say it every week. I like to pick one. If I could delete one game from the slate, it would be that game.
Yeah, because it could destroy you.
Yes, but it could destroy you if you play it too.
Yeah, that's what I said it when we opened this game. I don't like this game. It scares me.
Yep.
Something unsettling about this game. Indy and Tennessee. All right. Colts in Tennessee, Anthony Richardson expected back. I read earlier in the week that Pittman was a IR candidate, and now
this is what I'm saying.
And,
what?
Yeah, and now he's expected to play though.
Yeah, Predator style, just straight regenerate.
Josh Downs expected to play. He wasn't practicing earlier in the week. Jonathan Taylor's out. Richardson's back. I wish Flacco was playing, really. I like this offense so much less than I would have liked it if Flacco was playing today.
Big mess. There's no doubt about it, because I mean, you may disagree, but for me, I'm not going to Richardson, but he makes it tougher to reasonably get excited about anyone else within the offense. So the Colts might be a straight, just nope, move on style.
I don't see it today.
Like who are you going to?
Trey Sermon's too expensive. Tyler Goodson got too much work to make it worthwhile last week, so I'm not doing that. Alec Pierce, I'm not paying a mid 5K price point to hope he has 2 for 100 and a touchdown again. Not doing it. Tommy Lee said Titans D. Yeah, Ben and I actually talked about that earlier in the week. So did Greg and I. Titans D is perfectly fine. In this
Absolutely.
I like Pollard, and I got to tell you, I if there's one kind of guy that I'm willing to take some shots on, more so from a betting angle, because I think it's a far lower buy low spot than the $5,700 price tag he carries on DraftKings, Ben. But Calvin Ridley, if there was ever a spot where the stars just aligned for him, it's this week. And if it doesn't happen this week, it might never happen again this season, or at least in his time with. First of all, he's on like a 4-year, $92 million contract. This guy can't have one reception every week. The Indianapolis Colts this season have been destroyed in the passing game. And I haven't really seen anything that would suggest that they're getting closer to fixing this. You know, they're second in yards per attempt allowed, 8.4 yards per attempt, allowed the 5th highest completion percentage to opposing passers, 4th most passing yards per game. And then you've got this kind of perfect storm, this culmination of like narrative and good matchup, where Brian Callahan earlier this week, when asked about Ridley, goes, I've got to do a better job of finding ways to get him the ball. We need to use his speed and explosiveness. Just get it in his hands every way we can. Just be patient. We'll get it to you. It's on my mind. So you look at some of the other receiving performances. Collins, 6 for 117. Pickens, that was our guy. That was the spot 2 weeks ago. 6 for 112. Kmet, 10 for 97. DJ Moore, 8 for 78. Brian Thomas, 5 for 122. Kirk, 4 for 88. It's a total boomer bust spot here with Calvin Ridley. Total boomer bust spot. But I at least think this is one of these games where kind of no one sees it coming and Calvin Ridley is back on the map and everyone goes, wait, I thought this guy didn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I looked at him. I was building out my round robin anytime touchdown parlay, which you can find on my Twitter, JazzRazBets. Calvin Ridley was someone that definitely factored into what I was looking at. I just couldn't find the right line. And I see it. I see the vision. And it's one of those things, you can say this about a lot of players, but this is how I view it. You're either going to buy early and miss, or you're going to miss it. Because if Calvin Ridley has a blow-up game today, it's not like, oh, we can play him next week after we've seen it. It doesn't work like that. This is the spot. It almost feels like a now or never with him.
Yep. And if it's a never, all right, you get up, you dust yourself off, and you go back to it next week. You know? But ultimately what you're saying is, if there was a spot for Ridley, it just has to be this week. It doesn't mean it will be, but if it was going to happen, it's this week.
It's a matchup that's pretty intriguing, and he's coming in around 5%. That you just don't get those ingredients that often. And if you're going to take the shot, what better time to do it than this type of shot?
Eric Ronas, so in your guys' opinions, Ridley over Hopkins this week? Yeah, it is Ridley over Hopkins. But if you went and you wanted to get wild with a Levis +2, Hopkins is my number 2 for sure.
Agreed.
Man, I really liked Pollard until we got ownership. And, it's not that I don't still like him, but my God, that's a really chalky Pollard on an offense that's the whole point of talking about Ridley. Like, Ridley's getting no ownership. Pollard is popular today. That scares me. Chalk Pollard is not comforting.
Yeah, because I would know he's allergic to the end zone. And that makes it crazy difficult. It's amazing he even has 2 touchdowns on the year, because it feels like every play is him not scoring. It's a very easy case to make. I mean, his price is very appealing. The volume is there. Everything sets up for it. So I get why he's popular, but as you mentioned, he's going to be crazy popular, and it's more similar to Bucky Irving. I view them honestly in the same vein.
Yeah, I do too, with that big ownership. Lucas, why didn't they ever let Levis back in the game versus Miami? He was hurt. He couldn't go back in. And then they had a bye week. So he was hurt.
I mean, yeah, I think they were also pretty content to just let Rudolph do his thing.
I do too, but also Levis on the sideline, you were seeing him say like it's something like I can't go or something like that. I don't know. Thank you, Matt, for the super chat. How about this, Ben? Made it to the show using mobile hotspot and local bowling alley for power post Hurricane Milton. Let's make some money for hurricane relief. What's your favorite single lineup stack? Thanks, guys. Glad you're doing okay, man. Hope the family and loved ones are as well. Favorite single line, like, okay, so are you saying single entry stack, or we'll assume he's saying single entry, right? Not just like a single bullet in an MME field. Do you have a single entry stack that you like the most?
So I'd say that the obvious one, even in single entry, would be going to Dallas, but I'll give some love. We haven't got there yet. I still think Justin Fields going skinny with him, or even a weird +2, you can do it. I am a Justin Fields guy. Running out of time maybe, but I'm willing to do it.
You're never going to hear me argue with you on that.
Pickens.
What's that?
Yeah, you just pair him up with somebody and just hope that you get some of the electricity on the ground. I'm doing it.
Yeah, I mean, look, you pair him up with Pickens.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. I'm authentic. Any Levis single stacks on deck? If you wanted to, he does have some wheels. I'm telling you, this Colts defense, maybe they've fixed things, but they've been really bad. I would say, I think it probably still is Dallas for me, but I like your thinking with the Justin Fields. I still like Dallas. There's still ways to get different on this slate. With so much chalk, you don't have to worry about getting away from some of these stacks because there aren't, like, I mean, okay, if you were to pull up the top stacks, how many stacks are wildly popular?
Now, there's a big kind of distribution and that's not super atypical, but it is nice of, I think individual pieces, particularly at running back, are the spots that are really consolidating the ownership today.
Agreed. So Dallas is popular, but it's not, you're not getting 30% stacks on an NFL slate with 10 games. But yeah, Tennessee, if they're going wildly contrarian, sub 5% on quarterback ownership there, makes some sense to me. I'm having a tough time getting the Indy, Ben. It's Ridley, it's Pollard. Pollard scares me, but I know I'll have Tony Pollard. I just hope it's not too much Tony Pollard. Anybody outside of that?
No, but I want to ask you real quick because you've made a lot of money using this strategy, and I'm kind of asking for your blessing. What about Ridley and Pollard? No Levis.
No problem with it.
Okay.
Look, there's two for me. There's a couple of qualifiers, really three. All right,
7. That's one of them.
What's that?
Yeah, they're 11,700 combined. That's step one.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the price point. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're doing something like that with a really expensive running back and a really expensive wide receiver, it's tough. You need ceiling games from both of them. With Pollard and Ridley, you could still get it done. Now, it's also possible they both have big games. It's not like they have a really widely distributed target share. It just might be one of those games where Ridley makes it happen. Pollard 6K, Ridley's 5,700. You have that. Second, I want the matchup to be good, Ben. Like, I want this to be a spot where you're buying low on these two teams. And the reason you're buying low on them is because they haven't been good. A 23-point implied total for this Tennessee offense is very good. That's like a 29 total for any that's the other thing. Also, one other wrinkle to this is if you're playing a chalky Pollard, what's the best way to differentiate your lineup? Play Ridley in the same lineup without Will Levis, and then it kind of negates a lot of that ownership going to Pollard.
I mean, I'm with you. There's no doubt about it. I'm going to do that.
I have no issues. I kind of like it. Brandon Yarbrough, favorite cheap running back on FanDuel under 7K.
Bucky, if you don't mind the ownership.
And Tracy, yeah. I don't know what Tracy's price is off the top of my head, but yeah.
You have ample options. You've got Tracy at 58, Bucky at 57, Gibson at 55. There's a bunch of them.
Very little limitations there. Pittsburgh Raiders, Steelers 3-point favorites here. Jaylen Warren's off the injury report, so I'm very happy about this, that I can just eschew that backfield altogether. I'm not interested in that backfield right now. Are you doing it?
No, but would it not? Again, I'm not interested. I want to be clear. Would it not just be the height of everything for now, like Najee to explode when there's just literally no way that you can get to him?
Yep, it's gonna happen. Oh my God, Jacksonville is fucking terrible, dude.
Yeah, I'm glad that I just didn't have time to immerse myself in the London game, because I can never quit Jacksonville. And
I bet them at plus 120 on the money line. It closes with the Jags in some books being favored on the money line, and I'm still getting punished.
Yeah, I have them to win the South, which if anyone wants to buy that ticket, you know where to find me. You can just
Unreal.
have that.
They can't hold on to the football. They cannot hold on to the football. Just fumble after fumble. That's why I hate doing this show during games happening, because I just get pissed off.
See, that's why I don't bet the London games. I can't handle it.
Whatever. All right.
Yeah, whatever. Sure.
Just get pissed off. It's fucking stupid. Hold on to the football. It's Pickens and it's Fields for me here. If you wanted to go to some Freiermuth, no issues with that. I actually think it's the easiest team on the slate to analyze, because Fields has the upside. Pickens is clearly the top upside attachment, and then Freiermuth's pretty decent himself.
Well said. You know what you're getting, not in terms of where they land, but in terms of who Pittsburgh, I'd say, has one of the strongest identities of any team. They are who they are. Like they play how they play, and we see that. And I'm always just, Fields can do things that a lot of quarterbacks simply cannot do. That opportunity is very lucrative potentially. So you've got the options with him. It's not going to be a popular stack, and it shouldn't be. There are better stacks out there, but that doesn't mean for tournaments that there isn't utility. I think that there is.
The Raiders, though, with Devontae Adams out, Jacoby Myers unlikely to play. Zamir White's questionable, but it looks like he's pretty much doubtful. Okay, so that's great. Now what do you want to do? Do you want to try and take the bad quarterback with no run game, and do you want to try and thread the needle by getting to that one guy that's going to get the opportunities, but also against an opportunistic and good Pittsburgh defense that could take him out of the game? Or do you just want to fade this Raiders team? For me, I'm not going to Raiders skill players today.
No, you mentioned, Bowers. He's a damn good player, but he's priced like it, and he's got a terrible matchup. There will be no Raiders gracing the lineups. I don't see it.
Me neither. But I will say, if you wanted to go to one, like you said, it's Bowers. People, maybe Tucker, maybe Trey Tucker, 4,200. Like, he might just get a lot of opportunity. He might just get a lot of volume, but he's not a priority for me at all.
No, I mean, he's kind of a home run threat, and it only takes a couple, but I haven't seen a build, and again, I of course we'll dig into the tools and run some new iterations and see what I get, but I'm not seeing it with Trey Tucker today.
I am not either.
Yeah, Envious in chat just said this. That's exactly how I feel. Tucker is a cheap piece, but you probably don't need him. That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, he's a cheap piece, but what do you need to? What are you doing with your builds to where Tucker becomes necessary? Yeah. Good point.
Yep.
Chargers, Denver.
Cool.
By the way, guys, for those of you that joined late, we got almost 3,000 watching with us. If you joined late, I mentioned it earlier. You may have missed it. If you want an entire month free of Sims Core over on Stokastic, so that's the single lineup sim, that's the Sims tool itself, that's the late swap tool, post contest simulator. You'll want to use that. Boom bust tool, top stacks, player projections, ownership, What else, Ben? Premium Discord, everything for the sport. Core $99 value. The link down there, first one in the description. If you click that, it takes you to all of these partners, or in the chat right now. If you click on that, sign up on any one of these partners, any one of them. There's 11 up there. There's surely one that you're not on. If there's more than that, you're lucky, because everyone counts for an additional month of Sims Core. And you could tack different sports on as well. Anyone you want to grab, follow the 4 very simple steps. Okay. Choose one of our promos below. Use the link. So you got to click the claim offer to qualify for the promotion. Sign up using Jordan. Go to the page. Sign up using the offers and then deposit and place a bet. So the minimum deposit, sign up with that, deposit, place a bet. Then once your bet settles and you get the welcome email, all you have to do, it's like a very easy process. Email support@stokastic.com with screenshots of your welcome email and your first settled bet, and tell us what league you want. Of course, the entire month is yours. And let's say you went Bet365, which gives you $200 in bonus bets anyway, just for signing up and betting $5. And you went bet MGM, so you had 365 and MGM. That's 2 months. 2 months of core right there. I'd say it's a nice little deal, Ben. Probably the best thing we've ever done here.
Yeah, it's perfect because, like I said, what I love about it, you're not doing something and then throwing that in the trash just to get these free months. You have now access to sites that you objectively would want to be on, because these tools are built to help you there as well. So it's a win-win in that form. It's not like, oh, I have no use for this, but I'm going to do it anyway just so I can get this month. It's far from that. That's why I'm really excited about these partnerships.
Obi-Wan, I'm considering signing up with FanDuel. Blah. Dude, FanDuel, if you're not, FanDuel's, you're getting $200 in bonus bets on a $5 deposit and bet plus a free month of Sims. That's $300 right there. What do you mean you're considering it, brother?
FanDuel would be, the reason I never mentioned them, I just thought it was a given that everyone was on there. If you're not on FanDuel, just do yourself a favor and hop on for sure.
What's up, Devon Maya? $10 super chat. Thank you. Got the Sims by signing up for Underdog yesterday. Ooh. Hooked. Beautiful. Side note, made a quick 4-leg parlay just to get the tools and cash. Nice.
That's what I mean.
The other thing, you can win the bet.
That's what I mean. It's not just like, oh, I'm doing this to get to these sites. Boom. I love to see that. Let's keep that rolling.
Hell yeah, man. And thank you.
Parlay.
What do you want to do with the Chargers now that Gus Edwards on the IR?
It's a terrible game environment. There's no doubt about it, but I will say it does clear it a little for Dobbins. I guess I'm going to throw it right back to you. How much work do you think he can realistically see? Because it's going to be a volume play if you go there.
Well, I was wondering, what is his rushing attempts prop? Would you like to take a guess?
I'll say 17.5.
Great guess. 16.5.
Okay. So that's healthy, but at the same time, it's not that much more than he was getting. You're talking a couple more carries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 16.5 standard, minus 115.
Yeah.
So I don't love it.
I don't either, because again, the books are not saying that he's in a new role by any stretch. It means that his volume's a little more consolidated.
He was 13.5 to a few weeks ago, 13.5 rushing attempts. I know because I bet it at 11.5.
Yeah, there you go.
Frank, yeah, you'll see it in the description, dude. Just look in the description. It's right there and in the chat. It's that link right there. Anyway, also the Denver Broncos defense has played. They might be the most surprising defense on the season. They've been really good.
Yeah,
they've been really good.
They've got some obviously super strong pieces to it. Now they're at home. Bad game environment. Very bad game environment.
I just don't want to get to anything from the Chargers. If anybody, it would be Dobbins, because he's still a good pass catching back if they even decide to use him. But I don't want the pass catchers here. Do you?
No, I'm a big lad truther, but not here.
No, not here. I like him too. Plus, it's not the funny thing about Denver now. You're no longer in a spot where you can just go, all right, avoid Patrick Surtain matchup and go to the opposite one because Riley Moss has been so good and no one's talking about him either. So like they're just locking it down.
Yeah, and again, that's the Chargers naturally don't want to do that anyway.
Right. And on the Denver side, I don't really have much on Denver. I don't like this game from a DFS perspective at all. I have enough respect for the Chargers defense. Bo Nix in these 3 games that he's won, he did nothing against the Jets. The Bucs were totally banged up, and the Raiders defense is just lifeless. This is the Chargers coming off of a bye week. I don't like it. I don't like it for Bo Nix.
No, I'll complain / give a little shine to Javonte Williams. How he didn't score last week is beyond me. I saw multiple times him score only to not score, only to have Bo Nix score, and things of that. Obviously, I had his anytime touchdown score, as you could imagine. His volume is there. He can catch the ball. I don't love the matchup. And we talked about so many pay down running backs already. So on a different slate and a different time, Javonte Williams would be that value. I have him behind Pollard, Bucky Irvin. Now, fraction of the ownership if you want to roll the dice, but I don't think it's as good of a setup.
I would agree. Yeah. Dobbins is just viable because Gus Edwards is out. But, okay, one more thing in this game, because then we got 2 games to go. We'll turn it over to the Live Before Lock crew, right? When you look at this backfield, and you look at how Dobbins has gotten work, and now Edwards is out, and that definitely leaves a gap. What do you think when it comes to somebody like Vidal in the backfield? Does he get enough work not to be viable today, but just to make J.K. Dobbins not viable himself?
Well, I think that's kind of what we're inferring with the books a little bit. It's, how many rushing attempts are they projecting Dobbins to? You said what, 16.5, right? Around even juice. Okay. Well, how many rushing attempts do you think the Chargers have as a team? Not going to be 17. So obviously, just kind of reading between the lines, it seems like there will be a secondary piece. Not that's playable, but enough to keep Dobbins from having a lot of equity of 21 carries, 24 carries, things like that.
Yeah, I think they'd love to have 30 plus carries in this game if they could.
Yeah, and it would be like 18, 6, 5, and 2.
Yeah. Still, though, here's the thing, though. Like, if you were to ask me who my favorite play from the entire game is, it's probably still Dobbins, though. I just don't love this game in general.
It would be Javonte Williams for me, but I feel the same way. I don't love this game.
Do you worry at all that Esteme's back?
I mean, a little. I still think that this guy has kind of proven that he's going to get the work. He can catch the ball. It's not even just him, though. I mean, look at last week. McLaughlin scored. Bo Nix scored, which is more an outlier, but he can move a little bit. It's not the easiest situation again, and that's why he's projecting a pretty low ownership. All
right. 2 games to go. By the way, if you don't mind, take a single second, hit that thumbs up. What do we have? 450, Ben? We got 2,900 people here with us.
London.
Yeah, the
London games, we don't break even like 700.
I know.
It's tough.
I know. Well, if you could be so kind, subtle reminder, it only takes a second.
There it is.
Wow.
No, back's not bad. Oh, what did I do?
Just one little tweak and it hit.
Yeah.
No good, man. No good. Atlanta, Carolina. All right. Bijan, Drake London, Pitts, Mooney, Ray McLeod.
Yep.
How do we sift through this? Because I still like Drake London a lot here. I think you're gonna have guys like Ray McLeod, who's been very involved. Mooney's been solid for sure. Even at his ownership, there is something I like quite a bit about Drake London this week. And even Bijan, it's just such a good spot. But also Carolina is the type of team, oddly enough, that I'm not saying they can keep games competitive, but they can score some points because their offensive line actually blocks well. It's just their defense is terrible. They have absolutely no quality personnel throughout the entirety of this defense. The only problem is that they lost Taylor, they lost a key offensive lineman to a torn bicep.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina, that's what happens when you ship your best players off to other destinations. I know, yeah, it's easy to see why you like Drake London. I mean, the guy is just putting up, he's got 25 targets in last 2 games. And it might have been more because I thought he was concussed at one point, but he apparently was not. So it's just been outstanding. Bijan, man, it's not a Ridley situation where it's like now or never because he's going to continuously have spots. He's finally got a true dip in price. I'm gonna get sucked in again. I'm stunned he's as popular as is. I think it is because of the price drop. But man, yeah, I'm willing to go there in a plus matchup. Their favorite. I think this is as good a spot as you could ask for a guy like Bijan.
I think I'm taking the bait as well, and it feels like shit.
Yeah, no, you should not feel good about it.
I don't, but at the same time, like if he gets off to a good early start, that's when you see that workload. That's when you see that split widen between him and Algier. If he doesn't, and Algier does, turn the game off. It's over. You know what I mean? Like if Bijan gets out and has 3 carries for 2 yards, and Algier comes out there and has 3 for 40, now you're playing from behind the 8 ball, and it's gonna be an uphill battle to get that volume that we want from Bijan for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been, this is where it's very tough to decipher because I told you, and this is just one noisy data point. I don't want to make like this trumps everything. Bijan was I thought a pretty bad holding call away from the entire narrative of him changing a couple weeks ago. It would have made you a ton of money. Like he's been close. He's just run, I think, a little poor. The price has dropped. The matchup is good. I see it. These are going to be another candidate of Bijan, London, no Cousins.
Bijan, London, no. Nah. Yeah, it's just Ray and Mooney and Pitt. Like they actually have guys that they can get the ball to that have been good.
Yeah, for sure. But there's also a chance that I think the Falcons have 5 touchdowns to go around today.
Well, if that's the case, then yeah, then I could be on board with that. I don't hate it because I don't think you need to get to Kirk Cousins either. I hear you.
Be Pitts.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be Pitts with just a huge game. It's still Bijan and London is my 2 favorite guys. I know it's chalky, but I think Ray and I think, look, I don't even care. They're chalky. I like everybody from this Falcon side. I really do. Who do you hate in this game? And why would you not like them?
No, I mean, I don't really have. Look at all the ownership going to this game. It's not even just like the guys up top. There's a lot of Hubbard, Deontay, Ray, Mooney, Cousins, and then you have flyers. Like there are legitimately 8 to 10 plays that are in the pool. If you're building a full portfolio of 150, you could add a lot of different pieces. I think. For me, honing in Bijan would be my favorite play from this game. And honestly, I think Drake London would be my second play, and that's reflected in the ownership.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what about on the Panthers side? Deontay Johnson, you go to somebody like him. Chuba Hubbard's been awesome this season. I mean, just really, really good. I don't think you can go anyone outside of them unless you want to go to Jatavian Sanders.
I mean, I think that's a build thing.
I actually think that this is one of those spots where if Ian Thomas, because the thing is he's expected to suit up. I want to see if he's active, if he's going to play, because if he's active, then I'm good. But if he's not, with Tremble out, I actually would go to some Jatavian Sanders as just a full out punt at the position, and I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, I mean, there would be nobody else. And at that price point, the nice thing is you can confidently say you're being unique. Like there aren't other pivots in the $2,600 range. So I get it. Obviously, you could incur a straight 0 there.
Oh, you could absolutely incur a straight 0. Without question. NY Stiegel, Ian Thomas expected to start at 2,500. Yeah, but again, like with Ian Thomas, he's been out for so long. I wouldn't be comfortable with his workload. That was the only reason I talked about Sanders, Ben, was because if he does start, I would anticipate him getting like all. If Thomas was out, I would think Sanders would get a ton of snaps.
You would think.
Yeah. Are you prioritizing Chuba or Deontay Johnson?
No, not really. They're fine plays at their price points, but the most crowded range of the entire slate, the dreaded mid six. And for me, they're fine and I wouldn't shy away from them, but I do like players at the same price point from the games we've talked about. And honestly, in this game, like I would find $300 to get Bijan over Chuba, and I would find $600 to get London over Deontay.
I hear you, and I agree. It's a good way to look at it. Although, my God, Chuba's been so good. Like Chuba's awesome. The type of guy, if they keep feeding him, he's going to have another one of those games.
He has been awesome.
Ready to wrap it up with this last game?
Yeah, we had a super chat about the single lineup simulator, which is, again, one of the just coolest tools. I love messing around with it. Saying using it and fine-tune my projections. If I stay between 8 and 64% simulated ROI, is that pretty solid? Yeah, we've actually added some, Love, I don't know if you've seen that. We've added some verbiage too that kind of help you, have some guardrails about, okay, you're on the right track, or maybe you want to, look to a pivot. You see there, obviously that's a really good one from FanDuel, where I do think you can get a little higher. But yeah, just on a macro level, every slate's different, but I think that's a pretty healthy range. And if you like that lineup, you could definitely deploy it.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you guys have questions too, we got tons of tutorials out there that you can watch. That'll help you out a lot. It'll set you out. And also, jump in the Discord, ask questions. You have guys like Greg's in there every day now. It's helping people, answering questions with the single lineup sim, the sims. We're not just like, the last thing we want to do is get you in the door and then be like, all right, good luck. We want you guys to know how to use these tools so you can win with them. That's the whole point. So definitely ask questions. Goody, do you ever set a global exposure, and where would you set it at? DraftKings 20 max? No, I personally don't.
No, I don't really either. Every slate, again, the one thing I always stress is that every single slate is different. Like if I thought it was necessary to literally lock a player, I would. And there are some other slates where I would say, okay, I may not have anyone over like
Gabe Davis touchdown, Ben.
Okay. That's one.
Didn't you bet it?
Yeah, I need Kirk Moore. We need like five different touchdowns. But yes, we'll keep it. We'll keep the Jags equity roll. What's the score?
21. If they make this 21-10. It's not over.
They should still be throwing. I should have put Gabe Davis in a round robin. That would have been nice.
Would have been real nice.
But I didn't.
Did you want to finish your thought, or did I?
I don't even know what I was saying.
All right.
That's what the Jaguars do.
I know. Detroit, Dallas. Let's wrap this one up. Okay. So Detroit's a 3.5-point favorite, 52.5 point total. This is kind of one of those games where you could see them just turning Dallas into a one-dimensional offense. Because even if they didn't have a good run defense, Dallas's run game is pretty stagnant. You've got Dowdle, who's sure looked better. Ezekiel Elliott is dust. You have Brandon Cooks on the IR. CeeDee Lamb's expensive. Dak Prescott isn't cheap either. But a 52.5 total game. Detroit can light it up. You have Montgomery and Gibbs in the backfield. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have the new toy, Jameson Williams, that all he needs is one to go 70 to the house. Sam Laporta hasn't even woken up from his, off-season slumber yet. But they've got him as well. Like, they've got so many pieces in this game. It's easier to get to Dallas than it is to get to Detroit.
No doubt. I love this game. I actually bet, I do my over on Odd Job, or like one of my bet of the day, and it was from this game. It was the over. I just think points are going to be flying. Dallas is playing it
over 52.5. Huh?
I know. I searched. Believe me, there are no 52s out there. Dallas first and seconds per play. They're playing lightning fast. And I think they keep that up. Obviously, they're banged up on the other side of the ball too. It's just tough with these teams, particularly Detroit, because you just mentioned how many different players can get there for this team. You've got St. Brown, who I still believe is the alpha, but man, so many guys in play. Great game to stack. you could have QB plus 2 or 3 onslaught style here, I think, on either side.
Okay.
I agree. Dallas better side just because I think it's a little more condensed.
Yeah, it's just a little bit easier to get. Would you go to Turpin?
We talked about that. No, because of what's opened up. And that's where we kind of thought it might land. If we were starved for value, I think you could have.
By the way, Joe Flacco is starting.
That's shady.
Yeah.
I
Joe
think that's an
Flacco.
objectively good thing for if you had interest in the offense.
I think it's better for guys like Ridley too.
Maybe.
We'll see. Yeah, Joe
That
Flacco.
game is going to end 4-2 with 6 I can already tell.
Big time shocker there. Flacco getting the start. I'll wrap up with Detroit and Dallas. It's a tough game to get to if you're full out stacking. Like if you're going Dak Lamb and I'm on Ross St. Brown, I just don't think I'll have a ton of that. There is value that popped up throughout the week, which is helpful. But I don't want the backfield for the Dallas Cowboys. Greg and I talked about this on Friday. I just have a very difficult time getting to the backfield for Detroit because neither are cheap. Both are good. But how do you achieve that ceiling game for either of those guys when they both get a lot of volume? That's what I keep running into. It's not even that it's a bad matchup. I can't get to a lot of them because, where's the ceiling game?
That's where it's tricky because it's a delicate balance. The ceiling comes from the game environment, I would say. It's not going to be from condensed usage. It's just like these are high octane teams. And that's what I think you're banking on. I do think there's an element to that, but I hear you. There are so many top end weapons too. They're priced up, so it makes those margins even thinner.
Mike H, thank you for everything. And Ben got Gabe Davis' touchdown. There you go. Clintwood, member for 20 months. Thank you, sir. Thoughts on Gibbs Montgomery in the same lineup in the flea flicker? Yeah, I personally am not getting there. If it were like a 2 or 3 game slate, a showdown slate, sure. But paying that type of a price, 65 and 7K, what do you need from both of them to get there on a heavy running back slate? I personally can't get there.
I agree. Yep, same vision.
Yeah. All right, I think that's it. I was going to say, let's talk Flacco, but who better than Eric Lindquist and Matt Gajewski to break this one down for you? Live before lock, next hour and a half. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us throughout the morning. We will see you back here Tuesday for the first look show, Ben and myself. Until then, don't go anywhere. Matt Gajewski, Eric Lindquist coming up next. Injury reports dropping. We're getting news, taking you all the way up to kickoff at 1 Eastern, and we'll see you back here soon. Good luck, everybody. Peace.
You're my shot.
Oh, hello.
Your mic is hot.
You're always hot.
Put Jordan Klein's mic hot.
Jordan Klein's always hot.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, it makes me happy. Are we going to be doing it all through StreamYard today, by the way? Oh, look at that. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to NFL Live Before Lock, presented by Stokastic. I'm Eric Lindquist. Hit that like button as we get going here. We're doing a little bit differently. This feels fantastic. Jordan Klein behind the desk. He's been with you all morning long, or most of the morning here, that is for sure. Hope you're enjoying that Jaguars-Chicago game. Got a little bit more interesting, but actually I'm going to get rid of these headphones now because we're going to be going through StreamYard. Matt Gajeski, though, Matt_Gajeski on Twitter. This is our normal Live Before Lock crew. How you doing, my dude?
Doing pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's nice that I don't have to wear my headphones for today. I didn't see that was going to be in the cards, but I also didn't see Joe Flacco starting in the cards. I feel like we should start there because this is one I just tried to jump on some pickup sites. You had 41.5 receiving yards for Michael Pittman, 36.5 for Josh Downs. Matt, I'm going to move those numbers up here.
Yeah, enjoy getting limited.
Oh, not very nice.
That's just what's going to happen to you. So, I mean, great. You'll have a very good day, and then they will limit you to $5. So have fun.
Anthony Richardson officially inactive. We're getting that news coming across. Josh Downs active. Michael Pittman active. Rashad White inactive. Lots that is coming through the wire here right now. And we made this switch over right at 11:30 a.m. on the East Coast, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time here on the West Coast. But I'm just going through everything here. I didn't see that coming. I have to redo so many lineups. I'm playing 450 lineups on FanDuel today. I'm playing 300 over on DK. Would you know that my wife is out of town, Matt?
It sounds like it. I mean, that's going to be a good day for you, which is, funny. Your dearest loved one being out of town is the best time of your days.
Easy shots fired for Matt Gajeski.
You just said it, not me.
No, I'm just saying. It is what it is. It's more of a reality of the situation than it is like me assessing it by any way, shape, or form. But anywho, we got a lot to get to here at Stokastic. We'll talk about the link join, which is an awesome opportunity. I know Lofty brought it up on the previous show, but I will bring it up here on this show as well, because if you really want to be able to get all of the sims and all of the stuff that we're going to be working through here ad nauseum on this program, well, you can get it all for free. And free 99 is the best thing in all of the land. So you want to check that out by signing up with one of our amazing partners there at stokastic.com/DFS-sims-4-free. Don't worry, you don't have to type it all in. You just have to go to the video description box below, sign up, and we will be ready to rock. Oh, can you tell? I'm now also anxious because I have so much stuff to redo because this is just gigantic news. This is gigantic news, Matt.
Yeah, it should change the whole slate because that Colts defense is bad. The Colts play really fast, and their passing attack has been inept under Anthony Richardson. So now we just have a lot more in play. I don't know where I'm going to be at, man. It's hard to talk about right now. We'll be building on the fly, discussing on the fly, but I think we definitely want more exposure to this game. I mean, I don't know. We'll find out how it shakes out. But generally, people don't react to this late news. How much Joe Flacco and how much that affects everyone else, still a little bit TBD.
What was our biggest week? I mean, my biggest week for sure, and I think it was your biggest week too. Last year was reacting to Kyren Williams with 10 minutes left in that slate. He was sub 5% as a running back who was going to play 100% of the touches once they had Cam Akers inactive. This is way earlier than that. We're talking over an hour and 20 minutes later. We're going to get everything updated on our end. But this is a Tennessee team that there's Tony Pollard, who exists as a run back. I kind of like mixing in Calvin Ridley and Mr. Hopkins as well, DeAndre Hopkins. I've kind of been doing that already. Will Levis is a quarterback that on FanDuel I was getting to a little bit here as well, a DK as well. I just now want to take everything for the ride in some capacity. Obviously, there are so many different spots to go to, but on a 10-game slate, it's rare to get this kind of slate-shaping news this late. We have 4 afternoon games. We'll, of course, want to have some late swap in our lives, but kind of like that this one does lock at that 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, little time slots. We're going to have a lot to get to here. You ready to start breaking down some quarterbacks here? Because, again, this isn't just the Joe Flacco show.
No, and I don't know if it should be. His early projections are still not very good on him, price adjusted. So this might not change as much as we're suggesting. We will see as this, obviously it's new. I'm sure more is going to run out here and updates are coming. But yeah, right now it looks like he's still pretty bad.
I mean, Josh Downs looks amazing. Michael Pittman, 6,300 looks amazing. I
According
think
to
they
what?
both look amazing on DK.
Like with the projections, I haven't seen that. Right now, they look pretty middling.
Okay. I'm updating it. DJ Moore did the medical tent. That's not ideal for the season long peoples. That is
Again,
for
this
sure.
is new. We'll get updated projections, I'm sure. But early run is not great.
No, early run maybe doesn't look great. And again, Tennessee's got a formidable defense. I'm not saying that we're going to go out of our way to go
The total's
crazy.
42. It's
but-
bad total.
I mean, isn't L'Jarius Sneed one of the better guys to pick on in all of football, though, to some extent? Like,
I mean,
love
he
Mike-
was awesome, and then he's had a couple bad games. So it kind of depends if you want to overrate the small sample or if you think he's truly bad now. I don't know.
I think Josh Downs out of the slot 5,500 is going to be one of my big stands here now for today. But again, updating it on our end, updating it on my end. Now we can begin our tour as we start talking about the quarterback position. And I think it begins at the top with Lamar Jackson. I think he is the guy that if you are playing cash, if you can get up to Lamar Jackson, you just kind of do it. You have Jalen Hurts, you have Jaden Daniels in that identical game environment there, over north of a 50 total. I get a little bit worried that it's going to be a ground dose of things. And I got to say, my Austin Eckler stand today, we'll get there at running back. It's a pretty absurd number that I have on Austin Eckler today. But I'm looking at Lamar Jackson here as a quarterback that 17% ownership in our current run. Joe Flacco might pull a little bit away. I doubt it. Again, it's more to do with the pass catchers that I'm more interested in there. But how are we feeling about the top end here with Lamar Jackson relative to these other 7K players?
Yeah, he's definitely the best one. I don't know if it's by a wide margin, but in the same game, I think a lot of people would be interested in Daniels, but you can kind of break that tie with Lamar being a 7-point favorite. And then it doesn't really matter if they take a super run heavy script because Lamar is very involved in that. And he's been more involved recently. He kind of just looks better. I know there was the whole weight loss Lamar trying to regain his explosion this offseason, but it seems to have worked. With the other players, the games are definitely less interesting. And with Hurts, you don't have the same rushing equity. He kind of needs to get down by the goal line. Daniels, I certainly have interest in for tournaments with how efficient he's been. And you kind of want to attack Baltimore through the air right now. And that's all in the total. It's the highest total on the board in this early window at 51.5 points. There's only a couple of these games on the slate. So it's certainly one we want to attack. I think just that tie with Baltimore being favored and Washington's defense being so bad is enough for me to eat some Lamar chalk on this slate. I'll definitely be invested on both sides of this game, but I think these are the top two guys we're looking at in the expensive range.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. Jalen Hurts, I think, is a little bit more appealing on FanDuel where touchdowns can really, really matter. The Sims tool. Are you playing on FanDuel today?
I will play one lineup at least. Depends how well these DraftKings runs go. Generally, I add a lot at the last second after I tell myself I'm not going to.
My man.
We'll see.
This
This Flacco news doesn't help my case for FanDuel.
Yeah, God, mother of Christ. Of course, I have more exposure today than I have on any other given week all week, and there's massive news to react to. But that's why we have Stokastic. That's why we have the projections. That's why we have the Sims tool. Everything will update, and I will be just fine. We got to keep our composure, Matt. We got to keep our composure. You know what movie that's from?
No. So Anthony Richardson's the number 3. One of the things I was curious about is if he could play today, but not being the backup suggests that it's probably going to be all Flacco. This seems like an emergency situation for Richardson. I wonder if the injury just didn't respond.
Yeah, he's inactive.
But anyway, that gives me at least more confidence in Flacco. Like right now, he's still projecting like at Andy Dalton, and he's 800 more than Andy Dalton. So I don't think he's a great play. I don't know. This is still TBD, but that at least makes me feel better that Richardson's the third stringer and not the backup.
I'm with you. It makes me feel better. The third stringer, inactive. Yeah, emergency QB. That's kind of what they've labeled these guys as. We've seen that for a number of guys already this season.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that Joe Flacco is going to be playing all your downs here, unless, barring absolute injury or something ridiculous. But again, just working my way through it, working my way downtown, walking fast, faces passing them homebound. That's a great song for people who know. But let's get to the 6K range, because now I'm updating everything. Okay, I feel a little bit better about what I have in front of me at this point in time. I really would like to play Dak Prescott. I would really like to play Jordan Love, but who do I play Jordan Love with at this point? And then I think Baker Mayfield is interesting because nobody wants to play Mike Evans against Lattimore, and I get it. I've taken a lot of unders in the past when you were sitting there with 70, 75 and a half, 80. You had a little bit of a buffer in addition to the ejection injury or ejection risk, if you will. You also had an opportunity for Mike Evans to be like chalkier on some other slates. Mike Evans, nobody's going to play Mike Evans today. Nobody's going to play, Chris Godwin the way that they probably should based on his target share early on in the season. And Cade Otton is one of the more popular tight end plays. Bucky Irvin is the most popular running back play. He should be on the field ad nauseum. How do we not like a little bit of Baker Mayfield in our lives based on what we've seen this season? What are you looking at in the 6K range here? Kirk Cousins, 6,200. He's pretty good too.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on Mayfield and Cousins. I like both of these players as pivots off Dak. You basically know exactly where everything is going with Dak. There's only 2 receiving options. Well, I guess 3. Tolbert is semi-popular, but I think that's more of a product of there being very little value outside of the running back position. But Dak, it's either you stack him up top with CeeDee Lamb, and then you're probably tacking on one of the cheaper guys, whether it's Ferguson or Tolbert. Some people will go to Turpin. I don't think I'm going to get there. But I just think you're walking into ownership with Dak. I'm not really sure how you take a contrarian approach with him. With Kirk, you at least have options. And Baker, I think you're certainly going to have options, not to mention the leverage off perhaps the most popular player on the slate. That's the way we have it projected right now, Bucky Irving. And there are matchups to exploit. It's not like Marshawn Lattimore has been an absolute stud his whole career. He's been up and down. He's more of like a gambler, if you will, at the corner position. And there have been games where Mike Evans has certainly got the best of him. So I won't be scared based on the CBYR matchup. But I don't really think there's any denying that Godwin has the best matchup overall. But that's reflected in projections. So I think that's a really interesting stack to get to with everything coming in on Bucky.
Yeah, and I like the Camaro run back. I don't have a ton of Olave Shaheed interest this week purely because of Radler there at the quarterback position, who you could probably speak to Radler a little bit more. Obviously, I think more of a DK play for me where he's just a flat 4K, and maybe you can pay up for the Lambs, Amon-Ra St. Browns, the Derrick Henrys of the world in the 8K range where you can pay up and be a little bit contrarian. I don't think CeeDee Lamb will be contrarian when it's all said and done for what it's worth, but FanDuel, you do get Jamar Chase as a ceiling as well to add to the mix at 9,500. Maybe Radler has a little bit more utility, FanDuel, than what I'm recognizing, but I'm probably just going to be making him pretty DraftKings exclusive at this point in time. Anything else from the 6K range? Again, Kirk Cousins has a million pass catchers that are crazy popular, yet he's around 7%. I always find that to be an appealing way to, kind of really kind of get all of that upside where if it really smashes and the chalk goes nuts, at least you've got the full stack and the full complement to go with it. A lot of Xavier Legette interest from the field here as a run back. I don't have as much. I think Deontay Johnson definitely, but we'll see as it all comes down to the final run. But how are you feeling about Kirk Cousins specifically?
Feel okay. I just don't think he's like a very talented player. And I say this coming off a 500-yard game, which is very much in play against Carolina. But they also could just run the ball to Carolina's throat. So I think this does come with some risk. I'm looking at more games I think could be shootouts, and there's the obvious high total games. There's the more contrarian ones like Arizona, Green Bay is one that nobody's playing. You mentioned one of the main reasons. Green Bay is very tricky to figure out. So when you have some ownership coming in, especially at the pass catcher position on one of the middling games in terms of totals, I'm a little more likely to look elsewhere. And you just have less paths for Kirk to reach a ceiling. He doesn't run whatsoever. And then you don't exactly know where the ball is going to all the time. We know the Drake London position was big last game, but we've seen every one of these pass catchers have big games, even Kyle Pitts. So it's a little tricky for me. I don't really think he's that much different than like a Jordan Love. Do we really have a lot of confidence in the pass catchers here and which one it's going to be? I personally don't. So I'm kind of struggling with him. I think I'm going to try to come in a little underweight and then try to boost the other games that are in a similar total range.
Seems like a fair way to do it. Smash the like button, everybody, as we are working through this. We'll do it live. I'm just, almost done with all of my stuff here. 5K range is pretty bleak outside of. How are we feeling about Justin Fields in a bounce back spot? Sub 5%. We haven't seen him, Justin Fields, unleashed even from a from a rushing perspective. We saw him in come from behind mode against Indy, ironically enough, team I'm trying to get everything done for. And now we're going to get him in a gross game, but at least it's indoors. It's up against Vegas here. It's a spot where he's kind of playing for his job because you have Russell Wilson, who should be active for this one and at least pushing him. How are we feeling about Justin Fields? Because he's probably the guy sub 6K I have the most interest in for tournaments today.
I kind of feel bad for all the reasons you mentioned. Would you be terribly surprised if he got benched?
No, but I mean, then you're dead anyway. And it's
I was
like,
going to say that.
Yeah, who cares at that point? We're aiming for upside. And, while some people question the upside, I think 36 against Indy would show that it is very much still intact. I don't feel great about any run back outside of Pat Freiermuth here at the moment. Tight end, I don't think it has crazy opportunity cost any given week. Like we've seen Brock Bowers emerge. We saw Tucker Kraft, but now he's 4,800 on DraftKings. I think you've got a number of upside pieces, whether it's Trey McBride, Sam Laporta. There's a game waiting there somewhere in the wings, but you got Kyle Pitts at 4,400, who I'm going to be making a pretty noticeable stand on today because he's just unowned for whatever reason. Even though they wanted to get him more involved, they did get him more involved, and now everybody's like, forgot about Dre. But Pat Freiermuth, 4,300, I at least feel okay rostering him there. I think he's probably one of the cheaper tight ends, like 3K range. You have Cade Otton. And then the 2K range, I like Sanders a little bit from Carolina. I didn't see Tommy Tremble's out, but did we end up getting Ian Thomas active today?
I didn't see. I'm not playing Carolina tight end, so I don't care.
I sure am, because Sanders is a Texas wagon, my friend. I told you last week. I'll say it again. One day he'll get on the field and he will smash and you will repent for your sins.
I love him as a prospect. Played him a ton at Texas. He's just going to be a limited NFL player because he can't block. And he's not talented enough to have like a Brock Bowers role or, I don't know, Isaiah Likely. Name your receiving Zach or whatever receiving specialist you like. He's clearly not at that point in his career. He could maybe get there. But they're going to, whatever tight end they called up or have active that's going to block is probably going to play at least 50% of the snaps at his expense. So you have to gamble on his snaps, and then you have to gamble on him being a priority in the pass game for a not so great passing attack. I like Dalton because of price, but it's certainly not talent-wise. So I don't know. I'd rather not make about 18 gambles with one player and just play some other guys I know are going to be on the field. But I could see it, I guess. He is a very talented receiver if he can end up with that role.
That would be awesome. It would be more like having Ian Thomas out would almost make it like necessity to just have his body out there as a human being in the world. Like
I disagree with that fully. I don't think they're going to have him out on the field like a lot.
That sucks. That would make me sad. If you, I'm looking at Ian Thomas. Somebody in the chat hopefully can find it. Trevor Lawrence beyond terrible. Yeah,
like they're going to have another tight end active who blocks, and I don't think it matters which one it is. Like they could call one off the street right now, and he still probably would play a decent amount of snaps because Sanders can't block.
Not ideal. Yeah, it's not ideal. But anywho, you know what else is not ideal? The fact that we're going to be looking sub 6K, not just Justin Fields, but we've got some other diaper dandies, if you will, down here. Some guys in Spencer Rattler, flat 4K. You want to tell the people about his experience? I believe Oklahoma to South Carolina, and now a National Football League quarterback here for the New Orleans Saints in backup duty behind Derek Carr. Just explain what we're looking at with Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, he's just an elite recruit that lost his job to Caleb Williams at Oklahoma, so no real shame there. But then when he did get on the field in extended play, he never lived up to that recruiting pedigree. From a skill set standpoint, he's similar to Baker in that he thinks he's more athletic than he actually is. But he'll try to like scramble around out there. He's never going to be a guy that gets designed carries. But I think there might be some sneaky mobility just with his errant confidence. And then as a passer, he was relatively good. It's hard to evaluate him because South Carolina had like a bottom 100 offensive line in the country. Like they were outside the top 100. So he was constantly taking sacks and stuff, and they never gave him any time to throw. He's like a black box, but at 4K, what does he really have to do for you? I personally would rather play him than Justin Fields and some of these other guys that are 1,000 more and then use that salary to my advantage.
That is probably something to do as well. Anybody 5K here? Andy Dalton, kind of brushed up on him there for a second. I think he's a great pairing with Sanders. And no, I'm just kidding. I wasn't going to do that one again. Deshaun Watson is complete dust into dust. He shall return, I'm sure, at 5,100. I'm more interested in the Eagles defense. I think that is the sentiment of most people who have opened their eyes and watched him play football. But let's talk about the disgusting one, sub 5K, that I'm having the toughest time with. And I think it's made a little bit easier now that it's Joe Flacco starting. But Will Levis, how do we treat him at 4,800? Got dinged up last time out, week 4. They have the week 5 bye. He comes back. He's a better quarterback, I think, than Mason Rudolph. I know everybody wants to just look at what happened last time out. I mean, Tony Pollard smashed. Miami's defense didn't even look functional there in that spot. And I think Will Levis, he's going to have interceptions and just these low floor games, but he also, I think, is pretty darn athletic, not just because of his build, but it seems as though there are times that he could potentially find some rushing upside. And I think it's waiting in the wings there. You have Calvin Ridley and Hopkins out there. They haven't been out there together a ton this season. How are you feeling about Levis today? Because I could go either direction with him.
He's tricky because he's so bad, but if you were drawing up a matchup on paper to exploit, this is probably one of the like 3 or 4 you'd pick. Indy's fast. They have a bad defense. They're a shootout team more so when they have Flacco under center. So it's a pretty good spot for him. It's just trying to balance that with how horrific he's been. I don't think he's at risk of benching like, Justin Fields is, because their strategy with putting him out there is they're trying to see what they have. And their season's over already. So, I mean, there's no real reason to put Rudolph out there. They know he's not the answer. Perhaps Levis shows improvement in these bad matchups, and then maybe he can at least put himself in contention for some future with this organization. So I think his leash is pretty good unless he gets hurt, or they get like rolled like 40-0 or something, but that's not very likely. So yeah, I have a little bit of him. I'm debating. I limited him certainly below 5%, but I don't know if I want to keep it that low. I may end up a little higher on him just because the alternatives in this range are pretty bad. You have to deal with, I personally don't love Justin Fields. I'd rather take the upside on just about anyone in this range over him. But Rattler's down there. I think the weapons are certainly a little better in the offense overall. Certainly matchup are better for Levis. Drake May is going to be a huge underdog in like a really difficult matchup against Houston's pass rush, which would just eat alive that New England offensive line, which is battered. It's also his first start. I like Drake for other reasons, largely because he's an excellent rusher. But then the other guy is like Andy Dalton. So could he outperform an Andy Dalton in the literal nut matchup? Sure. So I don't want to talk myself too much out of Will Levis in this spot.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk myself out of him, but it's a question of just how much is too much for him. Again, you can
probably more than 5% is too much.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. And I was just running some stuff unencumbered with some projections, and like I uploaded some stuff in the Sims tool now that I updated everything in the indie game. And for those who don't know, like it's a push and pull effect here. The game looks so much more appealing to me in its entirety now with a guy that, obviously is going to be airing it out. And I think you just have far more serviceable run back options on the other side. I think the passing expectation of the entire game goes way up with him as opposed to Anthony Richardson. And it's just kind of making me far more invested in that game than I was expecting. And now, Will Levis, who was somebody that I was happy capping at, 4%. And that's kind of what I did there in the Sims tool. You're able to go in and kind of just put that blocker up. I'm probably going to remove it and see what ends up happening here and just run a new pool of stuff and figure out what to do from there. But I think he's definitely the quarterback that if you told me he put up 4 and got benched, I wouldn't be shocked. Same with thing. I'd say Justin Fields and him kind of in the same boat. We saw Rudolph be effective enough there, and obviously very capable of handing the football off to Tony Pollard many, many times. Tajay Spears had a decent enough game there in that spot too. But I am having a difficult time figuring out exactly what I want to do with him. But last guy, Joe Flacco, I mean, I'm going to be playing him. That just is what it is. 6K over on DK. I know it sounds ridiculous, but God, the ownership's going to be lower than it should be no matter what.
The projection keeps going up. I just needed to see it get to a range where he projects better than everyone who's 800 less than him, which right now he still doesn't.
I have him at 15.8. What do we have him at? We have him at 15.44. Is that correct? Am I looking at that right?
That's pretty standard around the industry. I've done my due diligence and tried to look and see where everyone is. It's basically the consensus is, if you want removal of the decimals, probably like 15.5.
Okay.
Which is, like slightly ahead of Andy, like tenths of a point ahead of like Andy Dalton and Levis. I don't know, man. Like he's like barely ahead of Rattler. So I don't know. I don't know if this is the smash spot for Flacco.
No, I don't think.
Like maybe the total.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that he's going to be 1% and shouldn't.
Oh, if he's 1%, who cares?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at. I'm just going to not care, and I'm going to just
play 2% and you're double the field.
I'm going to get to more than that, I think, is what I'm learning about my lineups. Let's do a couple of these lovely little super chats that we have going. Brandon Wagner, $10 super chat. First off, we appreciate everybody in the chat. Smash the like button. But we also really appreciate when you give us money in order to say things that you could say otherwise. But Brandon Wagner, he's one of the real ones. If playing Levis, DK, single entry, 3 max, do we fade Pollard and double stack wide receivers? I have a lot of singles, it would appear, on FanDuel with Will Levis. I just grouped that together. Obviously, we'll have Jordan Klein over there behind the virtual class. Are we going to be firing up the Sims tool here on this lovely program? Okay, good. Wanted to double check. Wanted to make sure you had access to everything here right now. Not because you haven't been here forever, but because, technological thingies exist. But I'm looking at my Will Levis lineups that I just updated, and yeah, a lot of them are just QB1 over on FanDuel. On DK, 4,800. There are some double stacks, but I mean, is there any, but are you playing any Chig? I mean, Chig Okonkwo, this guy is so unbelievably tilting. I don't really have the words for it, but he's 3,300. He should be on the field. Can you do it? I don't know if I can do it, but I do have lineups with him right now.
I don't have any right now. I'm pretty okay with that. His snaps have been falling because he's been so bad.
And I don't think you have to avoid Pollard in those lineups for what it's worth either, correct?
No, Pollard's an excellent pass catcher, but like look at Chig's snap share. It's like he's descending into the Grand Canyon and Josh Wiley's playing a lot more than him.
Yep. Down.
He just stinks, man. It is what it is.
Yep, he's not very good. Mason, $5. We appreciate you. Dak, CD, Deontay, or Lamar. Zay, London for DK Cash. Ray would be in both lineups if that changes anything. No, it doesn't change a lot. I mean, sometimes people get very, very nervous about like 3 pass catchers from the same team without the quarterback in Cash. I've never been one of those people. I'm not playing Cash today. I generally have been playing some Cash as the weeks have gone on. This one felt like playing multiple sites at the same time. I'm very, very glad that I didn't end up doing that. Go team, also go calendar on my computer. But Mason, $5. He wants to know Dak, CD Deontay, or Lamar Zay London. You have to have London in Cash. You just have to.
Can you say him again? Their 3 reviews are hard.
Dak, Lamb, Deontay Johnson, or Lamar Zay London.
Yeah, I prefer the Lamar side.
I do too. I want Lamar in Cash. I want London in Cash. If I were playing Cash, those would be 2 like things that I would absolutely be forcing into my lineups in any way, shape, or form. Drake London is a must in Cash.
Yeah, he's really good.
Anything else at quarterback for you before we move on our merry way?
I don't think so. I'm not getting too far off the board beyond that.
2 favorite expensive tournament play, favorite cheap tournament play.
Expensive. Where are we cutting that off? It's probably the Jordan Love Kyler stuff. I know they're not like elite 7K options, but that's probably where I would go. I know I was trash talking him, but I mean, for tournaments, really cheap is probably Flacco, man, I guess. Levis?
Yeah,
Flacco Levis? I mean, I don't know. I'm going way down there. I know.
Flacco and Fields. I mean,
Flacco's not cheap, though. Flacco's $6K.
No, he's very expensive. That's what I'm saying. It's not some freebie out there being able to roster him. That's why I'm saying, I think it just has to do with how much Josh Downs I'm about to play today. It's an absurd amount, 5,500. I want to get some numbers here. I'm going to pull up Tennessee against the slot here as well as we're moving on. That's the last thing that I have to update on my end. Got all the X stuff updated here for Michael Pittman, who I'm going to play a metric ton as well. So best of luck to me. Oh boy. Oh, an expensive guy. I know he's chalky. I don't really care. Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it's quarterback. I mean, quarterback's not a very chalky position. You can easily get away with the most owned quarterback as long as you're careful.
you can also easily get away with heading over to Tails. Yes, Tails by OddsShopper, my friends. Sign up for the lovely marketplace. That is myself, Matt Kajeski, Lofty, Ben Raza, so many amazing people here. We all have our own plays every single day. Man, I was working till the live long late night last night, throwing stuff together. Obviously, a lot has changed here in the course of DFS, but the bets, they remain the same. I feel really, really good about them today specifically, but we got DK DFS in there. We got Defy the Odds. We've got so many amazing, I hate the word cappers, but handicappers, sports handicappers that are available to you. All you have to do is click, sign up. Tons of deals going on with everybody too. DFS Donuts, check him out. The guy is just so unbelievably sharp. So many sharp people in this spot where you can get the Discord exclusive content from them. You can group by sports. You can group by the cappers you're looking for. It's an amazing, amazing place. Sign up. Check it out here today, friends. Tails by OddsShopper. So happy to be a part of such a great community. Alrighty, my friend, to running back, where I have so many plays that I want to get to. I'm a little bit thrown off by ownership this week, like big time thrown off. There's a couple of spots that I'm just surprised are pulling the ownership that they are, and then spots that I think should be way more popular. But I think that just speaks to, I mean, is this the deepest from like top to bottom we've had a running back pool be all season long?
I think you're probably right on that. Other than maybe, like week one when everyone's healthy and semi-mispriced, but we had injuries open up some cheap guys. There's not just one. Bucky's the best, but you could definitely pivot from him. And then there's a ton of really good backs that are in strong game environments, really at every single price point. So I don't really think you're funneled into one clear build for tournaments. It's kind of nice.
No. Yeah, that makes it really fun. But also, I'm going to heed the warning here as we talk about the AK guys. There's two of them. There's Saquon Barkley. There's Derrick Henry. Last week, everybody in the industry, 10, 11, 12%. Derrick Henry was 27% in the millie. I nearly fell off my chair. Obviously, he salvaged with that overtime carry. I didn't enjoy it because I talked about how much I love the Joe Burrow doubles. I ended up having way more Derrick Henry as the run back, hoping he would just bust off one or two long ones and just blow a game wide open. Now, obviously, that worked out well with the Higgins and Chase side of it, but I did not want 27% Derrick Henry as the run back in that spot. Here against Washington, north of a 50 total, Baltimore's defense has not been what it has been in seasons past. Washington's defense is Washington's defense. I think we can all agree it is dog doo-doo. We have a sub 10% Derrick Henry because everybody's prioritizing CeeDee Lamb. I think probably rightfully based on projection at the moment, but I don't know. Saquon Barkley, he's getting all of this offense. They're coming off a bye. Cleveland's in the doldrums. I know defensively they bring a lot more to the table than Washington for Derrick Henry, but the way that Saquon can get you there with the pass catching ability, with just the pure volume, no matter what the game script is, Derrick Henry can get ripped off the field if they're down one or two scores, which would be an unlikely outcome, but still, it's there. How do you feel about Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry at their current projected ownership?
I feel pretty good about them. I'm definitely going to be playing them. It's not too far above the field, but slightly. And it's just, you said it, flipping the build. I expect CeeDee Lamb to be pretty owned today. And it makes sense. We'll get to CeeDee, but to sum that up, he's an awesome play. It's just an ownership thing at a certain point when he ends up being really chalky with his QB, with the tight end and the value guys. I think that's where you can sort of flip an entire build by just playing an expensive running back. You could poke holes in both of them. The main one's just price, honestly. Derrick Henry's the pass catching woes, and Saquon's always threatened by Hurts at the 1 yard line. It hasn't been a huge factor this year. But yeah, man, I mean, you don't really have workload concerns with either one of them. Baltimore's projected to win this by a touchdown, so I don't think you see a lot of Justice Hill. And then Saquon's just not coming off the field, thank goodness. So yeah, I mean, tournament plays, absolutely.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because if Derrick Henry ends up sub 10%,
that's the thing.
I don't know how I don't play a ton of him just because of what that ceiling can be. And now I have more interest in, like, I think just the amount of 53, like I'm adding so much Josh Downs at 5,500 to the party now. I've got him projected for north of 14 fantasy points, and just the push and pull effect is that running back, I was going to be going down, not necessarily to Gibson. I think he's a little bit overowned. What is our touchdown expectation for New England with a 15.5 team total over on FanDuel being the best available line? I don't know what to tell you. I just know that it can't be very good. I love Bucky Irving. Everybody loves Bucky Irving, 5,400. I'm in love with Austin Eckler, 5,600. But specifically, Gibson is just falling by the wayside. I'm not playing a single running back sub 5K outside of one share of McNichols. We'll talk about that one to round out the running back position. But like, I have mid-range wide receiver just peppered right now. I have CeeDee Lamb. I don't find it's too difficult to play him and Henry together there. I think Derrick Henry is just, he's one of those guys. He's on the perfect football team for what he does. It is a team just built to hammer the rock. Now, so is Philly, but I think they just have such a more difficult defensive ask here going up against Cleveland. It should be a game that Philadelphia still handles business, but Derrick Henry, man, sub 10%. I just feel like he's a jam in any slate going forward.
He's not hard to play above the field is the big thing for me. You don't need to take a massive stand with Derrick Henry to either come in at or above the field at 10%. So I think it's pretty easy. I think the reason you're jamming all the mid-price guys is because there's no one cheap to play. So you end up being, especially if you play CD or Derrick Henry or Saquon or a Lamar, you're just funneled to like at least 2 mid-range receivers because we don't have anyone who's a value today.
No, we really do not have anybody who's like, we don't have a 3K wide receiver that people are running to the window to play. I think on FanDuel, there's a lot more interesting punt options. Like I think Eric All for tight end is somebody who's at least interesting based on, just the snap share going up and being a $4,500 piece to really go stars and scrubsy. But I think the Giants side is the more appealing one for FanDuel purposes with Slayton sub 6K, Wandale with his target share 6,300 for him. I don't see myself playing any Theo Johnson this time around. So congratulations to Theo Johnson for putting up the absolute haymaker. He did get targeted 5 times for 48 last time out, 5 catches as well. So caught all of those. But yeah, I think it's going to probably be for me on FanDuel where I end up, I'm really going to be ramping up some of these expensive running backs. And then, finding some cheap wide receivers to kind of mix into it. But yeah, on DK specifically, again, sub 10%, just staring at it. But let's move our way down because Alvin Kamara, this is the first of the running backs that I'm a little bit surprised to see as much ownership as what we have coming in the Sims tool. Gets me some Alvin Kamara in my life, that's for sure. But I don't know, like if you told me he ended up sub 15% based on how many cheapies we have available to us and how much people like to just play Derrick Henry because he's Derrick Henry, I think Alvin Kamara could get squeezed. I'm surprised we have him 16, 17%. New Orleans should want to run the football a lot here, considering Radler's the guy back there. Radler's passing props just don't inspire any awe. But how do you feel about Alvin Kamara specifically? Because he's our highest projected running back on the entire slate.
Definitely comes with holes. Their O-line is horrifying.
True.
And it's not a good matchup necessarily on the ground. Tampa Bay, I think, is fine there. And then just what are the chances this offense gets absolutely rolled? The total is extremely low. I think there's room for this to be like alt lines in favor of Tampa Bay. So I don't know. It's pretty tough to get to him, I think.
Everything good in the ambulance side of things on your side over there? Somebody's having a bad morning. Shout out to them. It's okay. It'll be all right.
I live by the fire department.
That'll do it.
But I guess I kind of tried to cut that off as quick as possible so you guys didn't get distracted as I did. But I think he comes with more holes up there than the other guys. I understand the projection. He's going to touch the ball 1,000,000 times. But there's significant downside with this offense just being absolutely railroaded. I don't see that with Philly and Baltimore. And then, the role is probably a little bit better, especially like Henry to Kamara, because Kamara's going to catch so many more passes. But what's the touchdown expectation for this guy? There's significant downside in this projection. So I'm trying to be very careful with Kamara. He's going to be my 3rd most owned among those expensive backs as it stands now, especially with ownership coming in where it is. And you bring up a good point with like Derrick Henry being always a little more owned than I expect because people love him. And then I'm not the only one that knows about this horrible Saints offensive line with a backup quarterback to completely devoid of weapons. I mean, this might be something that's pretty common take.
I don't know if it is. I really don't.
Maybe I should boost Henry and Saquon then.
Well, here's the thing is that I think this has more to do with like Kubiak and maybe our outlook for New Orleans this season from an offensive perspective. Like last year, wasn't the nickname the fantasy community dubbed Derek Carr Captain Checkdown? Like, this could be just Captain Checkdown returns in the form of Spencer Rattler. And I think that that's kind of more of what the projection is telling me, is that we just don't see him pushing the ball downfield the same way that we did, where Rashid Shaheed would just absorb all of that fantasy goodness with these deep shots that were just open all the time. And how he got by the 2 high safety looks and no other football team can figure it out. Do let me know. But Rashid Shaheed, man, it's a much bleaker outlook for him. And I think that just goes directly into the Alvin Kamara in some way, shape, or form.
Wouldn't be surprised by that. It's just strictly an efficiency question, honestly, for me.
Yep. Totally with you. No, let's just move our way down because this is going to be fun. 6K range. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, do you have any interest there? I have a little bit, purely because he can get there. He's dynamic. He's a phenomenal football player. Is he still the right pick? We could have that conversation at a bar someday, but very much Jahmyr Gibbs, a fan, very much not going to be cheering for him to do anything. I'm just basically ownership agnostic.
Same. It's like tepid interest because you know the ceiling is there. Hard part is predicting when it's going to happen. David Montgomery's still extremely involved.
Yep. Never know. You never know. But 6K range, this is where some major upside starts to exist at low ownership. James Conner. How about Joe Mixon? He's active. I could see Joe Mixon being the 1-2%er here against New England. It's a gross game, but if nothing pops from the game, maybe Joe Mixon can pop for it. I've boosted him. He's one of my ROI boosts here on DK today, just because of what that workload can be. Do they want to ease him back? I really don't know. They've waited this long with Joe Mixon. I have no idea how this happened, where, it sounded like he was going to be close the last 2 weeks and it just never came to fruition, or 3 weeks, basically. Cam Akers has just been on the field. Daria Gumbawale. Do you really want them on the field, period, if Joe Mixon is healthy enough? I would say no. We saw 30 carries there week 1, so cool. Let's do that again. James Conner, Josh Jacobs, Bijan Robinson, please, one-time dealer, but he is popular. David Montgomery, everything we said about Jahmyr Gibbs just doesn't add the pass catching to it. Chuba Hubbard's been incredible. J.K. Dobbins by himself without Gus Edwards. I mean, this just begins the 6K range. And Tony Pollard, 6K, the most popular out of all of them, probably rightfully so. Matt, how do we even start to parse through this range?
Yeah, tricky range. Trying to use ownership to my advantage. I don't want to be overexposed to Pollard, especially because of the ownership he's drawing. I've been lower on Pollard than the market this year, and it's gone well at times, poorly at other times, because he's been better than I thought talent-wise. He certainly looks better than when he was in Dallas last year, but he's still playing behind a terrible offensive line. Spears plays a fair amount, not a ton, but definitely like a change of pace role, so it's not like a solidified workload for Pollard. But the positives are it's an easier matchup, potential shootout, especially now that Flacco's back, and he has a good pass-catching role. So he's, I think, certainly in play, but it's when you look at the rest of the running back position, I would rather just spread myself out. So, I mean, he's more owned than Bijan. I know there's a $600 price difference. He is a better role, in my opinion. I know Algier's been playing a lot, but some of that I think is nuanced. Bijan was on the injury report, and then they had 4 days rest before their Thursday game. Now he has like an extra week almost, like the 10 days to rest and play more. The matchup is ideal. Chuba has been awesome. He has a better workload than Tony Pollard. I know he's a little bit less owned, but actually pretty significantly. I like Pollard, and I understand why he projects well. It's just when we have him at 32% ownership, there's we can go even further. J.K. Dobbins, no Gus Edwards today. They're playing Denver, and they're getting back some of their offensive linemen. Josh Jacobs, that has a higher, a pretty good total in the game. I know he's splitting with Emmanuel Wilson. James Conner is the guy that somehow always gets 5% ownership, which I don't understand. Mixon, you mentioned, there's a million alternatives that don't project that much worse. So it's kind of just I don't see why he's 32% when there's so many alternatives that aren't drastically lower in projection.
Kind of with you. His rushing prop is 63.5. It hasn't really moved. I've bet it.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Been staring at it. Yeah, it's good, but it's not like an 80. What is it? Derrick Henry's up to 88.5, 87.5. I mean, we've got Saquon there right in that same range. We've got, cheaper here. Chuba Hubbard projected for more rushing yards in the marketplace. I mean, we've got so many guys that I just feel like, Tony Pollard, it makes sense. We just saw it in week 4 in prime time. I think that there's got to be something to be said about that. It's also the Colts. They're the second to worst defense against the run in football, just on a yardage basis. I feel as though Tony Pollard ends up massive chalk, and there's just so many other good plays that I can't get to 32%. I think FanDuel, I'm okay getting to some more over there and being a little chalkier, but God, am I with you? He'd be the one guy on DK that if he sets the world on fire, I think I'd be extremely tilted.
Agreed. I'm going to try to cap it at 25% max. I may go lower.
Yep. Oh my good God. I'm just trying, no matter what I do here, I just can't get away from playing Josh Downs. So this is going to be very exciting, very exciting. Also can't get away from playing Austin Eckler. I just can't. I can't do it. Jeremy McNichols has scored 3 touchdowns the last 2 weeks to mute anything that we saw from Austin Eckler, but he's already put up a very efficient season. Austin Eckler has, but with no Brian Robinson Jr. out there. I mean, the guy has only had 6, 3, 8, 2 rushing attempts, but my God, the receptions, they've been so muted, and I can't wait for today. This is a game that they project to be trailing. It's a shootout game. It is just built for speed. Is it built for speed or for comfort? Wedding crashers for the people, but I'm very much for Austin Eckler in tournaments. He is my big stand, the guy I'm the most overweight to relative to the field on DK at the moment. Do you have the same 5K love that I do here for Austin Eckler or anybody else in this range that you want to start the conversation with?
Yeah, I love Eckler. This is the area where I think you can start making some pivots that don't project that much worse than Tony Pollard. Like Eckler's at 7% ownership, right in that range. Certainly interested there. Najee's 200 more. He's basically the same ownership. Like Javonte Williams, I think there's risk with him, not just from the backfield, potentially being more of a timeshare that seems to ebb and flow. But that matchup, you wouldn't be surprised if they get stifled. But ultimately, I think there is some merit to him if you wanted to make a pivot off one of the other expensive backs. There's Antonio Gibson, and he's higher on the ownership ranks, but he's still sub 10%. This whole range is intriguing to me, and the player I am highest on is Eckler for all the reasons you really mentioned. I don't see any problem with him.
I have absolutely no problem with Mr. Austin Eckler because, it would be ridiculous to not play a ton of him if you were me today. Looking at my lineups, I'm very happy to make him a major piece of leverage in them. How do you feel about Antonio Gibson? This is the other one where 15.5 team total. Drake May first start. No Ramondre Stevenson to help him out, the best offensive player that they've got by a pretty wide margin. How does New England succeed against the Texans today?
I'm not sure they do, but you do have Drake May who can run the ball. Brissett's been bad. There's just no way around it. Can May really be that much worse? I think the answer is no. If anything, there's just room for improvement towards the ceiling. But you definitely don't love it. The total's super low in this game. So yeah, the really only thing that gives you Antonio Gibson is roll and then price. He's in this range. He's going to handle most of the touches we project. They don't have a lot of alternatives. So yeah, he's kind of just like your greasy, play him if he fits because the role, he's like Alvin Kamara on an even worse team than New Orleans, potentially. He's an amazing pass catcher.
I hate my lineups now. Now I hate them. I'm going through like the 5 stages of grief over here, trying to figure out how to update everything at once, but I'm very, very high on the 6K range outside of Pollard. I'm not fading Pollard for what it's worth. I'm not fading Pollard. That would be kind of silly, I think, at this point. But I'm going to be lower than 30% on Tony Pollard when we get to the flip. Is there anybody tournament-wise, though, sub 6K or 6K that you just absolutely need the people to know right now?
Below 6K that I need the people to know about?
Yes, correct.
Not that we haven't already touched on.
Well, then that's so
Rico
great.
Dowdle, I guess, is in play, but people don't need to know about him.
It's a little freaky that people would need to know about him. Alexander Madison, the Sims like a lot. I'm trying to.
I might have asked him out. I can't remember if I did. Zamir White's supposed to play.
Yeah, Zamir White. Well, he's supposed to play. Is he going to be on the field? That's the main question.
It's just more risk, and I already think Madison's pretty damn risky for a lot of reasons. Roll, he sucks. Their whole backfield sucks, but I wouldn't be surprised if he plays less than people think. They could get just absolutely rolled in any game. They're already playing roulette at quarterback. It's just a revolving door, musical chairs back there. On a slate like this, like how many running backs did you say are in play? I believe the quote was This might be the deepest running back position that we've had all year. Are you really going to take Alexander Mattison and the opportunity cost he brings and jam him? I think Xing him out is completely fine. And I don't know, man. Like, at best, I'm coming in towards the field, and I did X him out. I'm completely fine with that.
Did I have 47% Josh Downs? That's too much Josh Downs. What am I doing? What am I actually doing with my life?
What would it? Okay. For Madison to be a smash and you to need him, what does he have to do?
Madison.
When you're winning a tournament with Madison, how does it look?
I hope somebody just poked you in the chat. That would be fun. I didn't say any of those things. I think
no. I'm asking you hypothetically.
Madison would have to put up 18 to feel like you got smashed. Like somebody at running back is putting up 25, 30 in the 5-6K range today. Like it's just going to happen.
Yeah, and I would bet it's not that team, but I'm wrong all the time. I don't know.
No, I love it. I think these are important conversations to be had. I am completely with everything that you just said. Alexander Mattison, I'm not a big fan of. I'm just saying that he was somebody that if you run the Sims unencumbered and you don't change his projection or you don't get away from some of this, again, it's just such a gross game environment. Yet again, I do like the field side of things. I think the run back that makes the most sense. I mean, Jacoby Myers isn't supposed to play. I like Trey Tucker, and nobody's going to play Trey Tucker at wide receiver today, right? Like Trey Tucker makes more sense to me than just about anything else that we talked about in that football game.
Yeah, and he also fills a role in your lineups with no value. He provides some. So he kind of helps you get to other players. To me, it's not even, do I think Trey Tucker is going to have a good game? It's what he allows you to get around him. And could he have a big game? Sure, he's going to be on the field every single snap. So I don't know. There's like a bunch of those guys that sort of fit that same role that I'm kind of spraying on DraftKings because none of them are very good. And I don't want to be overexposed to any of them. But Trey Tucker, certainly I would rather play than Madison at price.
Well, speaking of value, our DFS Sims tools, they're pretty fantastic. They can be expensive at times, though, too. And that's why we have a beautiful offer that we put together with a bunch of partners. It is the DFS Sims tool combined with all of these other great sites. If you were looking at sports betting or playing Pick'em in your given state, there's probably an offer at a site you haven't signed up yet where you can get those Sims for free. We're talking our core DFS package, a free month of it, just by checking out any of the lovely sites that you see on your screen, whether that is Underdog, Vivid, Pick Six, Sleeper, Rebet. Those are all available in nearly every state in the United States here at this point in time. We also have the Sportsbooks, where it's more exclusive to certain spots like Bet365. It is available now in Pennsylvania. It's in places like North Carolina, but far more limited number of states. But there's got to be something on that screen that you are looking at right now that you haven't signed up yet. And if you do, go to the link below, stokastic.com/DFS Sims for free. Click on that link, follow 4 very, very simple, easy steps, and you will have yourself the Sims to utilize. And it's a whole month. We have tons of football here. It'll be just on the outskirts there of being able to sign up and take advantage of it for the Thanksgiving slate. But the familiarity that you have with it, the opportunity that you'll have to be able to build on multiple sites, DraftKings FanDuel at once, it is worth its weight in gold. So try that out, friends. Stokastic.com/DFS Sims for free down at the link below. Matt, anything else that we need to talk about here at running back?
I don't think so. We hit on most of the players.
All right, let's go to wide receivers not named Josh Downs, because I think we've run the gamut on him and Michael Pittman. I don't know what else to say other than just rip me. But CeeDee Lamb is awesome going up against Detroit. I mean, this is just a team that you want to be throwing against a lot. It's a team that you probably have to throw against a lot because you tend to trail them in some of these spots where they just get the run game going. Don't know how Dallas slows that down today. Don't know how most teams slow that down, but CeeDee Lamb is pulling nearly 20% ownership. He is the one wide receiver. I will be well north of that because from a pure projection standpoint, every skill position player here on the board, it's him, Kamara, Derrick Henry. Just give me CeeDee Lamb all day and twice on Sunday here, or, just the afternoon slate as well. That'll be the twice. How do you feel about CeeDee Lamb here at the top end?
I think he's the best overall play on the slate, just projection-wise. There's not really a lot of holes you can poke. You want to attack Detroit? Best way to do so is through the air. Roll, even better now that Brandon Cooks is out. Quarterback, just fine. Game total, awesome. outside of injury, I'm not sure how he like puts up a dud. Does he put up a ceiling winning score for you? That's a different conversation, but he's about the safest guy on the slate. And that I think that even considers price. He's just an absolute elite play.
Jeff Williams, $1.99. Price agnostic, Texans or Bucks? It's got to be Texans price agnostic.
I agree.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, we saw them, it was like 48% blitz number going up against Caleb Williams. He didn't have a whole lot of fun. He didn't have a lot of fun in week 2 against Houston. Anthony Masilli, $1.99. Fave stack for both FanDuel and DK. Fave leverage play on both. Man, asking me all the things. So leverage, we're talking about, when we talk about leverage on this program, we are talking about if one player goes off within that team or game, it affects other things on that team or game. I think my favorite leverage play on FanDuel and DK is probably close to the same. Oh, no, not really. It probably would be Derrick Henry against the Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers ownership, but I don't know. I'm going to have to rerun everything here one more time before it's all said and done before I can answer that one. But I can tell you my favorite stack on FanDuel right now is the Daniel Jones side of things. Rip me over there. We didn't even talk about him, but FanDuel, I find him very difficult to get away from. For DK, I'll make that Justin Fields or Joe Flacco in that same range. How about your favorite stack for both DK and FanDuel tournaments, Matt?
I think one of the ultimate leverage spots, sorry, I just answered the second part of this first, is using Goff, Amon-Ra, or Jameson Williams, even Laporta. We didn't talk a lot about Goff. He's a little expensive for his projection, and the best way to beat Dallas is just running it down their throat, which Detroit wants to do. But you're getting almost zero ownership on these stacks. So that is interesting to me. It's just the pure leverage plays. I'm with you on Daniel Jones for FanDuel. He is way too cheap. And then we actually saw him put up a productive game without Neighbors. And then all his pass catchers are really cheap. Obviously, FanDuel includes the Sunday night game. So it's a lot more intriguing. You get Giants popping all over the place on there. On DK, my favorite stack is probably, if you're not talking about any sort of leverage, it's probably just Dak to CD. But once you include leverage, I have interest in Goff for like the pure leverage stack. I'm playing a lot of that Green Bay game as well.
Michael Henry, Eric, you are my hero. 1, have better heroes, but 2, thank you so much. I appreciate you very much. That was very kind of you to say. Now I feel confident to continue talking about the wide receiver position, where Amon-Ra St. Brown sits at 8,100. I don't completely hate the idea of adding him to the portfolio, but he's a little bit more owned, if you will, and I will be running Jameson Williams back out there in tournaments. He is kind of the big culprit as I'm fixing everything here on my DK side of things. I love Jameson Williams for tournaments at 5,800. Talked about this range with Josh Downs ad nauseum. Jameson Williams, somebody else in the 5K range that I'm hoping has a massive game. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, there's not a lot I can say. Such a great possession receiver, such a great receiver, period, in just about every single way, shape, and form that you could talk about wide receiver. Gets open. Great spot. I totally get the ownership. I just like Lamb a lot more.
Yeah, it's 100% just Lamb has the better projection by a pretty wide margin.
Yep.
When you're talking about expensive guys, it is.
That is correct. That is correct. Spanish Armada. Drake London going to be pulling tons of ownership here as well as we move into the 7 and 6K range of things. Now, with no Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, 7,400 is that's a spicy meatball. I don't really love that one by any means. I think Tank Dell a lot more interesting for today and today only. Again, Stephon Diggs, very curious how the slot ends up kind of coming to fruition here in this one. What is my boy Xavier Hutchinson, Iowa State, shout out? What is he going to be doing on the field today? Should we have any of him?
Yeah, I boosted him. I'm trying to get like 8-ish%. Because the real thing is
so much.
Well, first of all, the game environment's bad. I think we all know that. But how good does it really have to be better than all these other dusty receivers? And you're saving like at least $1,000 with him. Sometimes you're saving like $2K, and that's a very volatile projection for him. He's either 3rd or 4th in targets, I think. We had the blip Dalton Schultz game, but he'd been entirely uninvolved before that. We did see 3 targets for Hutchinson immediately when he came in last game. He played more snaps than Tank Dell. Now, Dell had more routes, but this might just be straight up same 3 wide receivers on the field almost every single play. Maybe you see Woods to block on stuff, but that's not necessarily a good thing. Like Woods had as many snaps blocking as he did running routes in their last game. I'm not really concerned with him. You might have like a 90% route share for Xavier Hutchinson, something ridiculously high at 3K. And then, like, what does he have to do? Not very much. And plus, everyone else who I would kind of put in his range is 2K more expensive, 1K more expensive. So I'm comfortable getting more of him than the field. Doesn't feel good, but I don't know what value receiver feels good today. They're all pretty damn bad.
They're all really weird looking down here at the bottom end. Yeah, Xavier Hutchinson. I mean, there's a reason that guys like Xavier Legette at sub 5K tag is going to be played the way that he is. I'm trying to find some pivots away from some of these guys that are pulling maybe a little bit more ownership, which leads us into kind of a chalky combination of guys. Drake London. You've got Deontay Johnson, and that's our super chat from Michael, $2. Are we scared of Deontay's ankle situation at all, Matt?
I mean, a little bit, but generally speaking, this is all kind of like reflected in the betting markets. These guys get docs and their props. We're right in line with those. So, I mean, it's all kind of factored in. If he re-aggravates it, obviously you're toast, but you can't go into that with that being the expectation. So I think everything's appropriately priced. I got a lot of him. But yeah, man, I mean, anyone can get hurt any Sunday. I wouldn't go into a slate worried about injuries.
Yeah, it's hard to play that in hindsight. Like, what's the most tilting to me is when it's a running back injury, like a Tony Pollard. If he goes down today, who do we all want to have and want to have in like 100% of our lineups, Matt?
Tajay.
Yeah, we would want 100. Like, you would just want all the Tajay in all the world. He would be the best play relative to ownership if you saw Tony Pollard, for whatever reason, get hurt on the first series of this game. Like, there's stuff like that is extremely tilting. As for a player who's hurt entering the game, who projects for one of the better red zone target shares out of any wide receiver in football based on his limited sample size with Andy Dalton here, I find it hard to look at Deontay Johnson as somebody that you don't want in lineups as the main run back of those Falcon stacks, or just like of the slate in general, having little mini correlations with Drake London and Ray McLeod, who's a cheapie everybody wants to be playing today, and so on and so forth, Matt.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't really have a lot to add there, honestly. I mean, I'm just not going to worry about injuries. They're going to happen. Hopefully it's not in a large set of your lineups, but when guys are on the injury report, it also creates an opportunity. You're not the only one that has some reservations about injuries. Typically, they're a little lower owned too.
Yep, typically going to be a little bit lower. You're going to get an opportunity to maybe see the ownership topped off because the casuals see the Q tag next to his name all week long, and they don't necessarily just automatically click him into their lineup. So I think that there's some good, some bad, but I think Deontay, it's pretty hard to say based on what we've seen. There's no reason I would have to think that you shouldn't be rostering Deontay Johnson today. That's what I'm getting at.
I'm with you. With you.
Drake London, Ray McLeod, Darnell Mooney. How do we feel about the Atlanta wide receivers? Because I don't know if you noticed, they're popular.
Yeah, I don't like the ownership on these guys. That's just the main thing. They throw the ball a lot. They're all pretty decent, especially London. But I'm just kind of my blanket approach to Atlanta is coming below the field because I don't agree with the ownership and the alternatives. So I'll be below on every one of these guys, knowing they're damn good plays. They threw for 500 yards last week. I'm well aware, just a spot I'm choosing to use as my leverage.
They can throw for 500 yards. I just want maybe like 100 of them to go to Drake London and like 400 of them to go to Kyle Pitts. Can I get that one time?
The reason, well, yeah, I mean, if that happens, I'm going to be losing all my money. But the reason I like getting away from Atlanta as a whole is like, if Kirk Cousins fails, he brings everyone with him. And then you're knocking out like 5 super owned guys. And all we need is Kirk Cousins to fail. I mean, all right, that happens half the time anyway.
Correct.
Now it's not, they're playing Carolina. So
come on and raise up, take your shirt off, twist it around your head, spin it like a helicopter.
But I mean, another thing that could happen against Carolina is just Bijan and Algier running all the touchdowns.
This is very true. And very, very live to have that be the case. Bijan, I think, is the guy from Atlanta that I would like to have smashed the most out of anybody in my lineups based on what I am looking at here right now. But Drake London's still in 21% of my lineups. It's not like I'm taking any kind of, Darnell Mooney in 13% of my lineups. I'm pretty happy with this. I guess Ray McLeod's the one guy that, we've talked about cheapies down here. I think Rashad Bateman is pulling, 6-7% ownership. We could see that. It wouldn't surprise me to see 10-12% Rashad Bateman when we got to the flip of the Millie. I think Ladd McConkey is going to pull quite a bit of ownership. I mean, he's got 10, 11% ownership in our projections. That might be a little bit high, but once again, him, Jalen Tolbert, like where else do you save money at wide receiver on this slate? Because we want to get up to the upside, guys, but there's no 3K dudes. I mean, Elijah Moore, I have in a lineup. Trey Tucker's the one guy that I just want to have smash at 4,200.
All right, I'm spraying these cheap guys. So I have apparently I have one lineup with Jonathan Mingo. Yep. I have a little bit of Kevontae Turpin, a little bit of Tyler Boyd, a little bit of Demario Douglas. I mean, there's just Michael Wilson. Jalen Polk, Xavier Legette. Now we're getting a little expensive. Obviously, like the Trey Tuckers of the world. I don't want to be overexposed. Ray McLeod. I already mentioned Xavier Hutchinson's a guy I'm over on. I have a little bit of Ladd. Like they're just so bad. I mean, this is another reason to potentially play like the cheaper running backs like Eckler, or if you want to take the Rattler approach. A lot of these guys are going to come in with bust scores. I just don't know who they're going to be. And one of them probably succeeds and you'll need them to like win the million or something. But man, these are really, really bad receivers that we're forced to play. Hate what DraftKings did with pricing this week. Just makes it less fun. Like when I have to go into my lineups and be like, I got a lot of Trey Tucker today. Just like feels bad, man. Feels bad.
I think Trey Tucker has a pretty decent.
I'm using him as like the archetype when you're building your lineups. Would you rather be like, okay, I need to bring Trey Tucker down because I have a lot, or would you rather play like a competent player, like, I don't know, Deontay Johnson or like anyone with a pulse?
And I want a solid gold total.
Like the only reason Trey Tucker has a role is because Devontae Adams quit.
Correct. You did.
It's like when you have to play a guy like that and like the quarterbacks are horrible, just that's why I want to be spread because these guys are all awful.
Team feels bad, man. Yeah, no, it does feel bad. It doesn't feel great. Not great, Bob. Not great. I don't love it by any means, but
who is the best play sub 5K, like talent wise?
Oh, see, that's a completely different question than like what I think.
Like, I almost want to bet on talent because they're all so bad. Is it Ladd? Maybe.
Oh, dude, Ladd is going to be very, very fun in the National Football League.
I think it might be him, dude. Is it?
That's kind of wild. That's a wild one to throw out there, but I probably agree with you. I think Xavier Legette is more of a. I mean, he's good, but like
he's a very different player. You're right, though.
My wife calling me as if she doesn't know I'm on a show. That's fun. All right, y'all, let's continue on to the tight end position. We got 20 minutes. Make sure you get a run of your lineups in. I'm going to be doing that as we start off the tight end position. I'm going to talk just for 2 seconds here to let Matt make sure that he can get everything set up while I set things up to discuss tight end here today, because it is a fascinating, fascinating position. Of course, our conversation begins with the chalk, which, you know, obviously just smashed beyond smash last week with Tucker Kraft. But thankfully, DraftKings did price him up to 4,800. He's still, I think, one of the better plays that exist at the position. So take that for what you will. Of course, you know, this will be the week that he fails at low ownership because welcome to NFL DFS. But I think Dallas Goedert is probably going to dissipate a little bit for me in my lineups with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith being back, Sam Laporta as well. But the chalk beyond chalk is Jake Ferguson. Fergie Ferg, let me love you long time, is nearly 20% in everything, maybe north of that. Small field, I got to think he's going to be around 25, 30%. He's 5K. He's the de facto number 2 pass catcher for the Dallas Cowboys, with Mr. CeeDee Lamb obviously being number 1. But this is a team where Dak Prescott, nearly a 280 passing yard prop. You update that in your sheet. The amount of Jake Ferguson I get running it unencumbered is absurd. I'm capping him at 30%. I'm okay playing 30%. Am I a chalk donkey today, Matt?
No. Tight end is dicey position, and you rarely get a guy who's operating as the number 2 pass catcher in an offense. Like you flat out, maybe like Trey McBride is that, or Bowers. Those are really the only guys that are that high in the pecking order of tight end. So I think Ferguson's a good play, but he still comes with volatility. It's the position of tight end. It is just what we have to deal with at this stage of where we are with the position. We don't have these studs, and Kelsey's not on this slate. So, I mean, here we are. I get it, and I will be playing a fair amount, but I still think you could easily get away from just about any tight end.
you could get away. Yeah, you could get away from just about any tight end. I felt that way last week. Let me know how that went for me. It felt pretty awful is what it was, Matt. But I look at the tight end position today, and there are a lot of upside options. It's just so hard to be able to pick and choose. So for me, this is going to be a late swap thing. I think the reason that I'm just going to have 30% and stick with it right now is I have so many guys to kind of pawn this off to. I've talked about Pat Freiermuth, talked about some of the afternoon games where we have Sam Laporta as an upside option. I mean, all the afternoon games, we have 4 of them going. I think that there's serviceable tight end plays up and down the whole salary gamut. I mean, I like Sanders more than you do from Carolina. I think Kyle Pitts is an awesome tournament play with all the other ownership. He might be my favorite leverage play on the slate from that question that we had before. I think Kyle Pitts is a great tournament play. I can't wait for him to put up a 0. It'll be great.
Yeah, we've seen it both ends with Kyle Pitts. I mean, there is definitely upside. He's also very questionable talent. I mean, he's probably the one that's the least owned out of this group, or will be the least owned. So
Sure.
You could definitely play him on that basis.
Oh my God. I hate everything about this slate right now with my lineups. I just tried to upload everything and it's just saying error. And I don't know what I did. Matt.
I hate when that happens.
Oh my God. I'm just melting.
It's the worst.
How do you feel about the expensive guys? Amongst the expensive guys, I mean, Brock Bowers has been just smashing up top. We got Sam Laporta. We got Trey McBride. I mean, how are you ordering these guys above Jake Ferguson?
I actually would rather play cheaper guys up top. I have a decent amount of that Green Bay, Arizona game. So my second most inexpensive guy is Trey McBride. Third is Bowers. I guess the real hole to poke with Bowers is they're going to have to use him maybe a little more to block against Pittsburgh. It's a really bad game environment, but I don't think that matters a ton. His route share is just so good. There's going to be a lot of weeks where he's the best tight end because the targets are there. Even if it's not efficient, when you end up with like 8 for 64 yards, that could still easily pace the tight end position. And Bowers is one of the few guys that really has that in his bag right now. It's kind of him, McBride, and then maybe Ferguson if things play out how we think they will without Cooks.
Oh my God. Who are your favorite guys on the cheap end, not named Sanders, because you obviously hate him and have no regard for his well-being. But Kate Otten, he's somebody in the Sims that's popping up a lot for me. I think that he is just fine. No problem with it whatsoever. But anything that you really want to highlight here at the tight end position on the cheap?
You have a fair amount of Kate Otten. He's just the best price-adjusted play in the cheap range. I got more Zach Ertz than maybe I'm comfortable with, but I'm going to leave it because I have a fair amount of Jaden Daniels in that game. And I mean, the tight end position, you could do a lot worse than just being correlated with the game you're playing a lot of. So I'm going to leave Zach Ertz, even though I don't feel great about it. Schultz, I have a decent amount of at 4-1. He did see 7 targets when Nico Collins went out. And then from there, it's kind of just spraying some Hunter Henry, little Freiermuth. Somehow I have a little Njoku that feels very bad. Mark Andrews is at 3.9K. What a world we live in. I got 2 lineups with him, 2 with Hurst, 1 with Juwan Johnson. And there we have it.
God, you did such a great job here. 15 minutes to go, everybody. Upload your lineups. Don't get error messages while you're at it. Make sure that you have all the boxes filled as you're copy pasting stuff from the Sims tool over to your lineups. That is what I'm currently trying to do. And I am doing a very horse crap job of it. But you know what? Some would argue that I do a horse crap job all the time, but I would not be one of those people. I think I do a lovely job here as I paste this in. I think I'm going to get this to go and I'll be able to move on to FanDuel and finish things out. Anything else at the tight end position for you whatsoever, Matt?
The mid-range, I don't have a ton of this. Who did we not really talk about in this range? Kraft. He's actually my 5th most owned tight end, but again, I think that's just the product of being on the other side of that Arizona game, which I'm playing more than the field of. But other than that, I think we hit just about everybody. I'm not trying to get too crazy. Oh, Laporte is another player in there I have a handful of, in the mega Goff leverage stacks. But that's about it. I don't think there's really too much else to talk about. It's Otten. My top 3 are Otten, Ertz, and Ferguson right now, which feels kind of bad. It's mainly just the Ertz thing, you know. Like, how much Ertz do you have, and do you feel good about it? That's what I'm hung up on.
No, I feel like absolute dog doo-doo about it. I mean, how could I like having as much? I have so much Hurts on FanDuel. FanDuel, he is a much, much better play. On DK, I'm got basically none because of how much I have on FanDuel. And I think that that's a good way to do it. You should be
Ertz, not Hurts.
Oh,
Zach Ertz.
Oh, yeah. Zach Ertz is my 4th highest owned tight end on DK.
Okay, so you're not too far off from me. I was feeling bad about that.
You should feel bad about it. We're screwed. It's Zach.
Probably.
But he's been running a lot of routes. Also, what happened to Ben Sinnott? I thought he was going to be a confirmed thing. He's confirmed not a thing.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him.
It's not very nice.
I mean, he's there. I just tight ends generally take a while to come on. It's very rare we get like the Laporta season, like the Kincaid season. Those rookies just balled out last year, and then everyone wanted it to be a thing. Turns out it's not.
Turns out wasn't confirmed a thing. All right, I'm pasting this in. I think I'm going to get this to upload. I feel like EMAC at the moment. Shout out EMAC 2020, even though it's now 2024. So EMAC 2024. I think that's how it works. Everybody smash the like button for Jordan Klein doing amazing work also behind the scenes here. As we go to defense, then we'll do some super chats if we have any others for the people. I can jump into the Discord and see if we have anything there. And then we will get ourselves the heck up out of here. But defense, my friend, talked about it before where, yes, when you just disregard everything that has to do with ownership, I think going to Houston up against New England, the new acquisition that is Drake May, he just has nobody to throw the ball to. I feel kind of bad for him. It feels like just a failure spot beyond a failure spot. Like Caleb Williams got completely lit up by this Houston pass rush, and that was with serviceable pieces around him. I don't feel that way about Drake May. So yeah, you want to get different in tournaments, go ahead and get yourself some Houston Texans, but there's no doubt to me, Tampa Bay, they make the most sense against Spencer Rattler. What are you looking at on the defensive side of the ball?
My 3 most owned are Philly, Tampa Bay, and New Orleans. I do not look at defense at all.
Yeah, I don't look at defense a lot at this point in time. It's still a position. We still have to fill it. We still have to, try to be functional and talk about things. But I let the Sims tool do a lot of the work for me now. I don't have to try to, micromanage it too much. So I'm not going to micromanage it too much. That seems to be the best way to go about living my life. Who are your 3 highest owned defenses?
Philly, Tampa Bay, New Orleans.
Yeah, I love Philly too. I didn't bring up Philly before there. All right, I got this uploaded. I'm happy. I'm ready to rock. We've got 10 minutes.
My man.
Michael, $2. Broncos, lowest owned DST. Is it just the price? The Broncos the lowest? No, the Broncos are not the lowest. That would be absurd.
Who's the lowest?
Lowest owned DST? Yeah, no, it has more to do. So the lowest owned DST is going to be, yeah, if it's the Broncos, I mean, you want to play some Broncos. They're a really, really good defense, obviously. So that makes some sense.
Yeah.
No problem with that whatsoever. The Chargers do want to hashtag just run the football, hashtag run the rock. So for what it's worth, know that. But yeah, there's no doubt that they're all right to be getting to. But thank you, Michael, for all the super chats. Thank you, everybody, for all the super chats all the live long day. Chris Albers, Noah Brown's smash game. We all remember him on Houston. Yeah, we sure do. He's not on Houston.
Oh, he's probably talking about the Commanders, Noah Brown. I don't feel good about any of their receivers, but one of them probably has a good game because it's such a good environment. So, yeah, I don't have a huge problem with Noah Brown. I don't know how much he plays because they rotate the hell out of wide receivers.
They sure do.
He's a 50% snap share this year.
That's absurd. That's actually absurd when you think about it.
I mean, go look at their snaps and routes. It's pretty wild how volatile it is.
Yeah. I mean, Luke McCaffrey just sent to the shadow realm, never to be heard from again. 17 and
another rookie. I mean, we've been so blessed with Malik Neighbors and going all the way back to like the Justin Jeffersons. Sometimes rookies take a little bit, man. People forget.
Takes a little time sometimes. Get your feet back on the ground.
What in the world are you singing?
Shania Twain.
Okay. Sounds lovely.
Thank you. Some people call me the songbird of my generation.
Songbird.
You don't get that one either. I don't
No.
know what to do with myself sometimes. I feel like talking to myself sometimes, and it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. I'm just updating stuff on 2 sites, playing more volume than I have all year long, but it's okay. No big
Me
deal.
too.
Everything's fine.
Well, I'm not playing
Everything-
more volume than ever. I'm playing normal volume, but I'm trying to update as well.
Jordan Klein just stopped.
Did you get FanDuel in?
No. I have 8 minutes. I have to do this. Step
I
Brothers.
just made
everybody
a Drake
tag me
May
for-
stack that feels like it's going to win the Millie.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Just wait and see. Drake May is the truth.
You know, there was this guy that used to play poker with in Canterbury, and we would call him the donation station because he was legitimately so bad. So you had the donation station in seat 3, and yeah, I'd drive up there and play Canterbury in the cash games. And shout out Minnesota, real ones know, 18 or over. Those were great days. Oh my lord. You know what? I got to throw this in here one more time. If you guys want the Sims tool, we have the afternoon slate. We have the showdown slate. Check out that link down below. I know I've thrown it up here a couple of times this show. I know you saw it a couple of times on Lofty Show. I don't care. It is such a great deal that it is worth throwing up there one more time for the people. Tons of pick'em sites, tons of sports books that you can sign up at, and you can get a free month of our core DFS package when you do at the link below. 4 easy steps. Simply send that screenshot over to support@stokastic.com. You have a great opportunity to get yourself some dollars, make you holler. Alrighty, y'all. And it's into the chat there in the link in chat because Jordan Klein is such a professional and I am not. Anywho, I don't have a whole heck of a lot else to talk about here. 30-60 Canterbury for life. Dude, that game was so soft growing up. I loved it so much. Yeah, I was a poker guy once upon a time. Duluth runs it. Yeah, no, Duluth, good times. Yeah, Duluth, Minnesota. These are wild times, my friend. You're out there in Wisconsin, IA. How far are you away from Minneapolis?
6 hours.
Oh, you're still a hefty drive. Okay. I was going to say, I'm going to be hopefully out there for a basketball game or 2 this winter. So just wanted to check in on you. See what
I'll come out and go to a game with you.
Okay. That I can get the tickets. You just show your lovely self up and we'll run back Wrigley Field like it's 2021.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do we get a shotgun from Matt Kajeski tomorrow night online before lock? Is that something we get?
Probably not. It is a wild week for me in my personal life, and I'm already working with basically no margin for any free time. I got some appointments and stuff I need to go to, which puts me kind of in the negative margin for time. It'll happen. I'm just not sure when, and this is unlikely to be the week.
Well, that got bleak. I don't like that. That's not the vibe I want to end this show with today.
It's going to be a busy week for me, and it's already 7 days, like 10-hour days of work during the season. So when you start throwing in appointments, you end up taking it out of your sleep. And I don't know if the Four Loko would be a really good idea.
Well, anyway, we're going to round ourselves out on that lovely, happy note. But hey, Matt, we love you. Matt_Kajeski, if you want to give him some love as well. Just a good friend, fantastic people. Anything you want the people really to know before we get the heck up out of here?
Late swap, as usual.
Yes.
Now that they have more afternoon games, this is even more pertinent. They're spreading it out a little bit more. And of course, there's some chalk in the morning. But otherwise, thank you guys for always hanging out with us on Sundays. It's a pleasure to do this for you. And let's make some money today. Some really sick games.
Some sick games, my friends. We're going to get the heck up out of here because I got to figure out exactly what's going on with my sheet so I can, not have 450 dead lineups on FanDuel. Thank you, Jordan Klein, per usual, everybody. We're getting the heck up out of here. Check out Stokastic. Again, that link join down at the link below. Let's go make some money. It's football, week 6. We'll be back here tonight. We got EMAC himself on with Matt Bellman covering the showdown slate. We'll catch you later.